This video contains strong language, feasing, lots of nick sucking, using a traumatic event to grift, something called non-violent Hitler 2.0, political spurging, lying, age regression, and crying and feasing about the People's Populist Press and his Polish cohort. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised.
And again, it's been a while. We're using a new setup here. As you can see, without exaggeration, I have been waiting for this moment where we gain the advantage on our opponents and on our oppressors. Oh, the blacks are discriminated and the Jew. What about fucking white people? Every single person who has ever uttered the word racist as a pejorative hates white people. Whenever somebody calls you racist, I want you to respond with, you hate white people. You have just confirmed to me that you hate white people. I now know for a fact, because you used that word, that you hate white people. So fuck you, because I'm a white person, so fuck you. You hate white people? Fuck you, and you are no better than I am. That's the only response that it deserves. This is Noel's fault. I think the case could be made. I mean, obviously that person is getting banned. This is a thought that crossed my mind, and with this post, I was debating it. I was like, this was right afterwards. So I was like, yeah, the timing's not going to be good here, and some people are going to be offended, and maybe people are going to take it the wrong way. But I was like, I got to put this out there, though. And people were thinking it. It's not like I was the only person. People were thinking this, and you know what? It's like, I would rather be safe than sorry. And it's like, look, if I thought it and others are thinking it, they're thinking it too. And it's not like it's a secret that there are people. I mean, somebody tried to kill him. Somebody tried to kill Nick. That happened. Walking up to random houses. Yeah, he said Nick. He was calling out for Nick. What was he? So he was just walking up to random houses and he was calling for Nick at all of them? I mean, but the seethers can't be reasoned with. The seethers are the same level of delusion as the leftists who think that the shooter was a groyper. The truth will soon come out on that one, okay? Just like it came out on this one, the truth will come out on that one when Nick can comment on it, and people like you will be exposed as the fucking retards that you are, and then you'll act like you never denied it. And then you'll just because this is the MO. This is the MO. You look, you just hate the guy, that's it, okay? You just hate the guy, and you will rationalize anything that happens to him because you hate him. So you'll twist the facts whichever way you need to. You will bend and contort and twist the facts because you hate. It's exactly what people do to me. The people who hate me, the truth doesn't matter to them. They just fucking hate me. So whatever the truth is not relevant. They hate me. They lie about me. I correct the lie. They move on to the next lie. Just like don't even say he saw the mail. Just write you hate Nick Fuentes. That's all it is. You just hate the guy. The people who hate me, same thing. They lie about me. They're lying about me right now. They're taking everything I say out of context at this moment because they hate me. And that's what people do when they hate you, is they lie. Just say you hate. Just say you hate Nick Fuentes, and let's just move on with our lives. Okay? Obviously, when Nick gets featured in the New York Times, this is the end game. We saw it with Charlie Kirk. This is the end game. In Nick's case, it's a lot worse because they're calling him a white nationalist. So for him, it's, like 1,000 times more threatening. But, and I know Nick doesn't need me to tell him he's in danger. I know Nick isn't seeing my post and going, oh, thanks, RP. Oh, thanks. I didn't know. I know Nick knows. I know everybody knows. Josh Moon, who runs a forum which hosts the home address of every right-winger with a webcam so that the people that killed Charlie Kirk can terrorize them too, wants to lecture us on right solidarity? Maybe sit this one out, bozo. Maybe sit this one out. Everything he says comes from this guy here. Like, without exaggeration, This is Josh Moon's thought leader. Everything that Josh Moon says about me or anybody else that he talks about, it all comes from this guy. Like word for word, verbatim. Whatever this fat degenerate, this con artist, this snake oil salesman piece of shit, this worthless excuse of life, whatever he says, that's just like concrete fact to Josh. This is who you look up. You're going to call Nick, and this is your guy right here? This is who you think people should be taking direction from? Really? This is who inspires you? By the way, when I wink and nod, you know, when we talk about Hitler, you know, I'm not talking about the extreme, okay? I'm not talking about the camps, okay? Like, I would be satisfied, we're on YouTube, so this is a hypothetical person saying the following statement. I would be satisfied with like a non-murderous Hitler. Hitler without the violence. I think that could be done. We could have internment camps, but just honestly, that's the only place where he went wrong. Now I know every single time I say this, I know. That is the only place, in my opinion, where he went wrong is, you know, once the killing begins, no good, okay? If you want to remove people, you want to deport people, if you want to eject non-violently, that's totally cool with me. And I'm not talking about Jews here, whoever needs to go. Whoever hates this country, if you hate America, if you hate the native population, we're just going to deport you. The same way we're deporting the Mexicans right now, the illegals. Like, I don't give a fuck. If you're a white U.S. citizen, but you hate white people and you are burning the American flag, you could get the fuck out. Racism saves lives, okay? If you are a parent, you plan on being one, teach your children to be racist.
Stone Man.
Felt Grand Studios.
I rose out of the toilet once again because somebody hit Feaser with the stupid stick. I really didn't want to cover this topic, but Teddy Feaser felt like he had to save America by making Charlie Kirk's political assassination by a radical liberal terrorist about himself and Nick Fuentes. The amount of Nick sucking in this video makes Jerry look heterosexual, and that's an achievement by everyone's standards. Good Lord. I was wondering what Feaser's hierarchy was in Stupid Town, but he's the mayor of Retardville. I seriously didn't want to have anything like about this on this channel. Feaser had to make a 4.5-hour stream about a man who probably would disagree with most of what he said in his 4.5-hour stream about himself and about a Mexican white nationalist that runs a group of, well, it's basically a fed op of white nationalists that are all black and brown and gay and Jewish, or a mixture of all four, like Shagget. I have a bunch of other shit to work on, so fuck Teddy Feaser. He's a Teddy faggot. Here's a cut down and sped up version of his stream because he's a bitch.
Test. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. It's been a while. We're using a new setup here, as you can see, so some technical difficulties. I apologize. Let me do it again, though, because you guys just missed out on a world record-breaking And then I was saying, I'm a little bit, probably shouldn't be that excited given the occasion. Given why we're here today, I'm excited to be back with you guys. It's not every day that I stream these days, so I'm excited to be back, but obviously the news that brings us here today is not the greatest. And we're going to get into that. There's a lot. There is so much to get into. It has been such a crazy, wild, insane, unbelievable last few days. My mind has been racing. I have not been able, I got a few hours of sleep here and there, but I have not been able to rest. For those of you who follow me on X, you probably have seen that I've been going the fuck off. I think I probably posted more on X this week than I posted all year. I basically stopped using X. I was using it a little bit earlier in the year, but I just have so much going on in my personal real life that I just, I lurk, of course, and you guys have seen me post. I'm not saying that I haven't been online at all, but I've definitely not been as online as I was previously when I was streaming, because when you're streaming, you have to be online. You have to be online promoting yourself constantly. But, this story with Charlie Kirk, it has invigorated me, and this is something that this is going to last. Like, this is the moment that without exaggeration, I have been waiting for this moment. Not to be corny, but this turning point, this truly, truly, truly does feel like the actual turning point in American society, where right-wingers, where we gain the advantage on our opponents and on our oppressors. And that might sound like extreme language. That might sound extreme. That might sound dramatic to describe the left as our oppressors. But truthfully speaking, that is what it's been like living in America for as long as I can remember. As long as I can remember, there has been a double standard, an unacceptable, unjust double standard in this country, where if you are conservative, there's one set of rules, and if you are a liberal, a leftist, a Democrat piece of shit, that we have been at these people, we have been at their mercy for as long as I can remember. The double standard is everywhere. The double standard, it's in the media. The double standard, it's in the universities. The double standard, it's in the workplace. It's in the workplace. You go to work, and you hear all of your coworkers, all your leftist scumbag coworkers, as we've seen on X and social media for the past few days. And what are they doing? They're cracking jokes about the assassination, the murder of Charlie Kirk. Cracking jokes. And they can do that. They can do that because they are protected by the environment. They're protected everywhere. It's why they're so brazen. This is why they're so brazen, because they are protected, and they always have been, and they have never, ever, 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 ever faced consequences for their actions until now. Until now. Now, they are on the back foot, and they should be, and it is deserved, and it is justified. This isn't opportunistic. This isn't, we're being opportunists. We're taking advantage of the situation. This is justified opportunism. This is justified advantage. 100% justified, because what these people have done to us, I know it's not just me, I know everybody listening to my voice right now, you all know exactly what I'm talking about. You've all been in those situations. You've all faced the double standard, the persecution, the discrimination. All these people want to do is talk about, the blacks are discriminated and the Jews. What about fucking white people? Not just white, to be fair, not just white people, because it's any conservative, so to be fair, no, not everybody watching the stream is white. It's not just, if you're white, then you're going to get extra pain. It's going to be a little more challenge, but regardless, if you're a conservative, it is just two different sets of rules. Until now, guys, this is the moment. You go on X right now. Every single time I refresh the feed, I see 10 new libtards fired. I see 20 new libtards fired. It is fucking glorious. I'm loving every second of it. And if you see it in your life, right, maybe this is out of character for you. Maybe this is not something that you've done in the past. Maybe this is something, we're better than them, or, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother to make that phone call. I'm not going to bother to send that email. Do it. Why not? Why not? These people that these people you see on Facebook, these scumbags that you thought were your friends, these scumbags that you thought you got along with, you could trust, were your allies, they would do it to you. They would do it to you, and they wouldn't think twice about it. The same way that killer, that murderer took Charlie's life, didn't think twice about it, thought he was a hero. Thought he, to this moment, thinks that he is a hero. He thinks that he did the right thing, and you won't make a phone call and feel heroic, and you won't send an email and feel heroic. They would do it to you. They have done it to you. They've done it to us forever. They have done it to us for fucking ever. And now, they have overstepped the boundary to such a degree that even they are facing consequences. They have finally jumped the shark. That's what it is. And it's because of decades and decades of getting away with it, that they feel so comfortable. These are teachers. These are healthcare professionals. These are mental health. These are attorneys. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're across all facets of life. You know them. We all know. We're surrounded by these people. We're at their mercy. And now it is time for them to face the consequences. It is time for them to play by the rules that they set out. It is time for them to take their medicine. This is it. And this is not just a flash in the pan. This is not just, people are going to forget about this in a day or two. Of course, everybody always moves on from every tragedy eventually. But this is permanent. They can never wash this away. They can't. This is what it's all been building up to. And will this be the end? Will this be the end of the violence that we've seen as of late? In my opinion, I'm not saying the very beginning of it was Luigi Mangione, but as far as these assassins go, or these assassination attempts go, we saw it first with Luigi Mangione. And everybody cheered him on. There was many on the right. There were many people on the right who thought he was just the coolest dude. And people on the right were like, healthcare is expensive. So, yeah, I think it was justified. Okay, so you start with the healthcare CEO. Maybe that's somebody who's a bit more universally reviled. You give it your stamp of approval. Okay, and then what do we see next? Then you have, this actually was a little bit different, but getting back to Luigi with an important detail getting a super chat. A little distracted by the super chat there. You can get collect but celebrate Kirk's death fired under OSHA regulations. Reason, socially unsafe work environment. Hey man, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. And I do like that advice. That actually reminds me, I was going to bring this up at some point. If you have not seen Asmongold, if you have not seen his last two uploads, watch them. I mean, I almost wouldn't be offended if you stopped watching this stream right now to go, of course I want you to watch the stream, but his last two uploads are fire. They are, he is in I would say rare form. This is a rare form. This is new form. This is an evolution. This is Asmongold Unchained. Punished Asmongold. That incredible content that he's put up since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And one of the points that he actually touched on is relating to the point that you just made, Cheeseburger Cowboy. Once again, thank you for the super chat. And one of the points that he was making is, if this is something that you witness, you experience in your workplace, then this is something that you should report to HR. Now you're saying OSHA, maybe that's a little bit different. It's been a while since I've been in a professional work environment, so I'm not totally familiar with all the procedures. But the point that I want to make here is Asmongold, what he suggested was, let's say there is a coworker, a superior, whoever who makes a comment celebrating Charlie Kirk's death or something like this. He said that you should report this to HR, and HR should take punitive action. I wouldn't be so sure about that, actually, because I haven't seen a ton of this, but I have been seeing here and there have been cases that I've seen since Wednesday where people who have spoken up, who've spoken out, they have actually been the ones who are facing punishment. And like I said, this isn't widespread, but HR is probably, definitely the most left-wing, leftist, radical leftist infested portion of any corporation. And anybody who's ever been in that environment will tell you that. And I don't know if Asmongold has, so maybe he's a little more naive when it comes to that. I would be very, very, you have to do it in a way, if you can do it anonymously, you have to do it in a way where you are protecting yourself. That being said, this right now, if you were ever going to do it, this right now is the moment. This right now is the moment to do it. Praying Mantis says, this is anti-Christian behavior, false. This is righteous indignation is what this is. And actually, I have, let me see. There's plenty of biblical quotes you can pull up to dispute or refute what you're saying as far as, this isn't Christian. Well, you know what also isn't Christian behavior? Murder isn't Christian behavior. Assassinations aren't Christian behavior. So I think we're gonna have to shake things up a little bit is what I'm saying here. Gonna have to shake things up a little bit. Let me see if I can find this quote real quick. It was a good one. Of course, there's many good ones when it comes to this topic. Is this it? Here we go. I like this one. This one I've actually never heard before. Luke 10:19. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. So not only are we being given authority, not only are we permitted to defend ourselves from our enemies, but God, he is offering his protection. So that is something that we should all keep in mind. This right now, this is the moment to act. Like I said, if this is something normally you wouldn't take part in, you need to, because they would do it to us. They have done it to us. And what the fuck are you waiting for, man? Because you know what? Nothing is, if this isn't it, if this isn't the moment where everything changes forever, never going to happen. And it's only going to get worse. And the violence is only going to get worse. Republicans, they really, conservatives, whatever, you're really, it's time. This is it. Like, it's time to get serious. It's time to get serious. They are Charlie Kirk, man. Charlie Kirk. Like, Charlie, this has to be one of the most innocent, one of the most harmless, one of the most pure, genuine guys out there. I mean, you look at him and you're devastated. You're devastated. This is not that I would celebrate or not celebrate, not that I would be happier if it was but this is the guy that they chose to take out. Think about how utterly brainwashed you need to be to think that Charlie Kirk is the one. Think about how you can't even comprehend. You cannot even comprehend the levels of brainwash and propaganda these people are on. You cannot even begin to comprehend that. Sumji, you are correct. You are correct, and he's here to gaslight us because he doesn't want us to defend ourselves, because he doesn't want to be fired from his job, because he doesn't want to face consequences for what he has done to all of us for our entire fucking lives. That's what it is. That's what it is. Well, it's payback time, bitch. Okay, and as I just shared with you, we've been given permission from the only one who matters. And by the way, I hate to do the disclaimer. It sucks. Nobody wants to hear it. Obviously, at no point am I promoting violence. But we don't need violence. I know some people might disagree. Some people disagree with that. I actually don't think we need violence. I think, we need to defend ourselves, protect ourselves. I think we need to use, well, I shouldn't even say that, so I won't say it. Fuck. Hold on a second. My cat is wigging out right now, and she just knocked over one of my lights, but we're back. Okay, so, we get some water here. I'm all over the place. I mean, there's just so many points to make, man. There's so many points to make. This really has woken up something inside of me, and I know that's not just me. This was a collective moment, a collective experience for all of us. We are all thinking alike right now. We are all feeling, we all have that same feeling. We all reacted in the same fashion when we saw that video. Everybody that I've spoken to, everybody that you see online, they've all been affected by this. People on the right, of course, people on the left have been affected in a different way. And you didn't even need to be a Charlie Kirk fan a little bit. You didn't need to be a Charlie Kirk fan at all. I'll be honest, I'm not going to pretend now that he is deceased. I'm not going to pretend that I was Charlie Kirk's #1 fan. I wasn't. That being said, I still like the guy. I actually did like him. Now, I know there's some controversy here, or at least as it pertains to Nick Fuentes, the Groypers, there's some controversy here because, Nick was his main opponent. And there were definitely some, I would say words exchanged. It wasn't really exchanged. And there was an exchange. I think it was more on Nick's side than Charlie's, but that's because, Nick invited Charlie to debate him many times. I think that if that debate ever took place, I think that it would have been cordial. I think it would have been civil. I think it would have been peaceful. I think Nick has proven that every single time he's had a conversation with anybody. I mean, think about the last, 100 at this point, interviews Nick has done. Has he ever acted anything less than perfectly respectable? I also believe that Charlie Kirk, that debate would have occurred at some point. I do believe, and I think we all saw this, I think Charlie Kirk was slowly creeping to our side. That's something that Nick himself had pointed out on several occasions. He was starting to, I know the big issue is the Jews, Israel. He was becoming more vocal, growing more vocal on the Jewish question. There's some recent clips of him doing that. So, I know some people will disagree and say, he was a Zionist. I mean, look, maybe that's undeniable, right? That is undeniable. That being said, there are many people who maybe started at Zionism, and eventually they end up somewhere else. I mean, even Nick himself, I don't know if Nick was a Zionist, but I think he says that he was, or he was, not that he was, but he was sort of on the path to Zionism, but then he started asking questions at a very young age. You know? I mean, just think about what your politics were when you were 16 versus what they are. So anyway, the point that I'm making here is, I think that I personally never really felt, I never felt animosity towards Charlie Kirk. Never felt animosity towards it, ever. And there's honestly very few people, very few right-wing influencers that I do feel animosity towards. The only ones that I do feel animosity towards are the ones who I think are genuinely evil. And I won't name names, but people that are just genuinely evil. I think, I'm not talking about like my haters. I'm not talking about like A-logs or anything like that. I'm talking about, large right-wing influencers that I think are not the greatest people. Not good people at all. People that once again, we're not at all wanting violence here, but people that I would feel less bad about, let's just say. Charlie Kirk, though, there's no way that Charlie deserved this. And I think he was coming around. I think that debate would have happened. I actually think that there was some point where not only would that debate have happened, I think that Nick and Charlie could have even come together at some point. I don't know if they would 100% line up. I don't know if they would, I don't know if Nick would join Turning Point or Charlie would be the vice president of America First. But for the most part, they weren't very far off on the issues. You could say, but the one issue, or like the main issue where they were off, that's a big one. As far as the Jews are concerned, I know there's a lot of people out there. They're convinced that this is some type of Jewish conspiracy. I think there's just nothing to support. Usually I'll take this position whenever there's a tragedy, whenever there's a shooting, whenever there's an event like this. There's always people on the right who convince themselves, they convince themselves, this is a conspiracy, this is a false flag, this is a conspiracy, Jews. I don't think this was any of that. I think this was just a radical leftist who was sipping the Kool-Aid, sipping the leftist propaganda Kool-Aid. And it's not like it's the first time we've seen that. Same thing we saw with Trump's assassin, unless you think that was also an Israeli op. I also don't believe that was an Israeli op. But yeah, so I personally didn't really have any animosity to Charlie Kirk. And the thing about Charlie is, while I personally wasn't into his content anymore, I'm 35 years old. His content is more targeted towards the younger demographic, kind of like babies' first steps into politics. So while I wasn't engaging with his content anymore, while I didn't utilize his content anymore, I recognized that there are millions of young adults out there who were engaging with his content. And even if those people maybe were starting with Zionist conservatism, where would they end up eventually? Where would most of them end up eventually? So Charlie Kirk, I think that he was a good man, a great man, actually. I think he was a great man. Another thing that I really never knew so much about him, that I found out after the fact, is how, I always knew he was religious, of course, but how deeply devout he was, how truly devout and devoted he was. And there are so many quotes from him that you're seeing get posted now, and it's really profound stuff. And he had the foresight. He had vision. His vision was different than Nick's, Royper's, and I'm closer to Nick's vision than Charlie's vision, but he was a good person. You've heard this 1,000 times by now, right? Father, husband. You look at those pictures of his family, it breaks your heart. I mean, what a beautiful family, His kids loved him, his wife loved him. You could really see. You look at the picture, you look at people who are together, people who are dating, people who are married, and a lot of times you look at the picture and you're like, there's no love there. When I see Charlie Kirk and his family, I say to myself, they love each other. They loved each other, 100%. And that's a beautiful thing, and it's rare, and I think a lot of people, even in marriages, don't get that, and Charlie, it seems, had that. So, I could go on and on, but God bless him is what I'll say. By the way, if anybody has any questions for me at any point, you want to, whatever, send me a question. YouTube Super Chats, Power Chat, Kofi, that's another option. Go to allmylinks.com/RPGTV, and I'll answer your questions. Right now, I'm mostly focused on just doing my monologue, or whatever you want to call this. So I'm not going to be super interacting I will interact with the chat later, eventually, but right now there's a lot that I need to get to here. It's just a truly devastating situation, but there is a silver lining, and that's not me at all saying, no, I mean, what I'm saying is, at the very least, there is a silver lining here. This has really opened a new door for us all. This has opened a new door for us all to take action like we've never taken it before, not violent action, but because they're on the back foot, and there is nothing that they can do to get out of the hole that they have dug themselves in. They're trying very desperately right now, which we're going to get to. They're trying to claim, this wasn't our guy, which is pretty funny because prior to the arrest of the shooter, they were giddy. They were giddy. They were dancing with glee because an innocent, harmless, unprovoked a family man was assassinated in cold blood for no reason at all, because he was engaging in a peaceful and democratic exchange of ideas. Think about that. That's what he was doing. So when you hear these people prattle on about anything, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a rhetoric to gaslight you. It's just a rhetoric to take advantage of you, use your morals, your values against you. That's the point that Asmongold made. 100% right. 100% correct. That's all that they do not give a fuck about anything. Another thing, they call us racist. Every single person who has ever uttered the word racist as a pejorative hates white people. Whenever somebody calls you racist, I want you to respond with, you hate white people. You have just confirmed to me that you hate white people. I now know for a fact, because you used that word, that you hate white people. So fuck you, because I'm a white person, so fuck you. You hate white people? Fuck you, and you are no better than I am. You are no better than I am, because all these people, they think, where are the bigots? Where are the bigots? And where are the ones who are spewing the hate? Really? You don't hate white people? You're not bigoted towards white people? And conservatives too. Non-white conservatives, I mean. They hate us. So every time they call you racist, just respond immediately with, you hate white people. It disarms them every time. Because you know why it disarms them? Because it's true. Because it is true. Because that is a fact. That is a true fact. They cannot contend with that. They know that it's true. So they, what? What do you mean? That's the only response that it deserves. You hate white people. We know for a fact that that is true. We've seen it everywhere. Hold on a second. Looks like there might be some breaking news here. Holy shit. Okay, we have breaking news. This is from Just Low TV. Charlie Kirk's assassin lived with his transgender partner, who is now cooperating with the, oh my god, who is now cooperating with the authorities. Whoa. Whoa, holy shit. We have some breaking news here, folks. And that makes perfect sense. And that explains the engraving on one of the bullets now, which was this very weird, very awkward reference to transsexuals. Which, that was my first instinct. That was my first instinct. It wasn't the Israel stuff. It wasn't the Jew stuff. As soon as I heard, just think about the type of monster you would need to be, of all people, even of all people on the right. Think about the type of monster that you would need to be to take out Charlie Kirk of all fucking people. This is Noel's fault. I think the case could be made. Okay, Ring Mantis, you're out of here, because I can just tell you're not a friendly. So, you're out of here. Wow, that is, I mean, it's shocking and not shocking at the same time. Oh wait, I just realized, there goes the whole, there goes the whole, oh, he was MAGA. He was MAGA because he wore a goofy costume for Halloween 10 years ago, mocking Donald Trump. He was MAGA. Wow, let's actually, this is the sound. Let's hear the sound of the leftist argument for the shooter not being a leftist. Yeah, there that one goes. Obliterated. And of course, nobody with a brain cell thought for a second that it was never a question to me. It was never, no right-winger would kill Charlie Kirk. That just would not, the only, it's never happened. Has that ever happened? Has a similar scenario ever, no, obvious, and look at the messages on the bullets. Catch this fascist, right? That's what it said. I mean, not a lot of people on the right using fascist as a pejorative. The only ones who are doing that are boomers who are oh, Democrats are the real fascists. Oh man, that is wild breaking news, folks. Wild breaking news. I mean, obviously, that person is getting banned. Okay, so, there's a lot, I mean, X right now, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is on fire, man. It is on fire. Every time you refresh, that shit is just, there's 1,000 new posts. Bangers as far as the eye can see. And there are so many over the last few days that I want to go over with you guys. This is going to, spark so many of the points that I want to hit. It's going to refresh all the different notes that I want to hit. So, yeah, when I first found out, I was legitimately shaken. This isn't, I'm not playing this up on such a... Legitimately, I was legitimately shaken when I saw that video. Not only by the brutality of the kill, not only by that, which of course was by itself difficult to watch, but just the reality of it was devastating. Just the fact that this was real, that this had happened, was very, very difficult to process. And I immediately, I felt emotional, I felt anxious, it was a really, really dark mixture of emotions. And even for, a day or two, I was just tearing up here and there. I would see a post, I would see the little girl, I would see his daughter running over to him, and I would just lose it. It was really, really fucking sad. It's still sad, but, time passes, and it's still sad, of course. But just the fact that an act of evil, evil's not even the word. You use the word evil, it doesn't begin to describe it. What is the word? Malevolence, just none of those feel potent enough to describe what that was. Beyond all comprehension. But, yeah, so not just the brutality, but just the fact that this had happened, and this was real, and Charlie's gone, and he's never coming back, and the implications, that as well. The implications of the fact that this had now occurred, and what it means, what comes next, where this is going, where this takes us, all of that all at once. I thought this was really funny, so from Micro Comics, or the libs laughing right now, this is the part of the movie where you think the monster is dead, but there's still an hour left. Also, there will be sequels. It's so fucking true, man. That's so fucking true. They're laughing, they're celebrating, they're acting like the war is won. No, they just fired off the first shot. This is the very beginning. And we can never let that fire die. This is it. We have the momentum. We have to hold the momentum, press the advantage. Everybody's got to do their part right now. This is it. Now, this is a thought that crossed my mind, and with this post, I was debating it. I was like, this was right afterwards. So I was like, the timing's not going to be good here, and some people are going to be offended, and maybe people are going to take it the wrong way. But I was like, I got to put this out there though, and people were thinking it. It's not like I was the only person. People were thinking this, and you know what? It's like I would rather be safe than sorry. And it's like, look, if I thought it, and others are thinking it, they're thinking it too, and it's not like it's a secret that there are people. I mean, somebody tried to kill him. Somebody tried to kill Nick. That happened. Somebody came to his house with a crossbow and explosives, and they tried to assassinate it. Like that, people forget about that. Or at least people that, the Seethers, they forget it, or they retcon it. They say, oh, he was just walking up to random houses. Yeah, he said Nick. he was calling out for Nick. What was he? So he was just walking up to random houses and he was calling for Nick at all of them? But the Seethers can't be reasoned with. The Seethers are on the same level of delusion as the leftists who think that the shooter was a griper. Yes, there's that he saw his mail canard. He saw his mail canard. Right. Who invented that one? Right. He saw his mail and he said, okay. Well, you know what? The truth will soon come out on that one. Okay? Just like it came out on this one, the truth will come out on that one when Nick can comment on it, and people like you will be exposed as the fucking retards that you are, and then you'll act like you never denied it. And then you'll just, because this is the MO. This is the MO. You just hate the guy, that's it, okay? You just hate the guy, and you will rationalize anything that happens to him because you hate him. So you'll twist the facts whichever way you need to. You will bend and contort and twist the facts because you hate. It's exactly what people do to me. The people who hate me, the truth doesn't matter to them. They just fucking hate me. So whatever the truth is not relevant. They hate me. They lie about me. I correct the lie. They move on to the next lie. Just like don't even say he saw the mail. Just write you hate Nick Fuentes. Let's just cut to the chase here. Just write you know I'm not gonna say the words because then these people will clip it. Say I write the words because that's all it is. That's all it is. You just hate the guy. The people who hate me, same thing. They lie about me. They're lying about me right now. They're taking everything I say out of context at this moment because they hate me. And that's what people do when they hate you, is they lie. The left hates us. What are they doing? They're lying about the Charlie Kirk assassination. They're saying the shooter was a griper. There is no evidence. There is no evidence. No, none. Zero evidence. Okay? No evidence at all to suggest that. Not a morsel, not a crumb. Not a molecule of evidence. But there are people who will say anyway, he was a griper. Okay? Just say you hate Nick Fuentes and let's just move on with our lives, okay? Because that's all it is. That's all it boils down to. Getting back to the post here. You know, I truly do hate to even put the thought out there. I apologize in advance. But obviously, you know, when Nick gets featured in the New York Times, this is the end game. We saw it with Charlie Kirk. This is the end game. You know, Charlie Kirk, he was actually featured in the New York Times about a month or two ago. I believe he was referred to as the conservative youth whisperer or something to this effect. Somebody sees that and they think to themselves, boy, I gotta take this guy out. In this case, it's a lot worse because they're calling him a white nationalist. So for him, it's, you know, like 1,000 times more threatening. But, and I know Nick doesn't need me to tell him he's in danger. You know, I know Nick isn't seeing my post and going, oh, thanks, RP. Oh, thanks, I didn't know. I know Nick knows. I know everybody knows. You know, like this guy says, stop speaking it into existence, seriously. I respond, not my intention at all, but we should not delude ourselves either. We need to be proactive. That's all it's about, is we need to be proactive. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, do me a favor, share that link. Let people know that RPG is back. We got the camera going. I got the camera set up. Okay? And actually, you know what? The reason why I did that is because of the current situation. I was like, you know what? Charlie would not want any of us to hide our face in a moment like this. So, next up. Yeah, and then Trump. Let's talk about this. Trump's response has been very bizarre, I would say. This was the first thing. This was his first reaction that we got at all. Trump writes, the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. He didn't die. He didn't die of natural causes, I should say. Like, this is the wording you would use if somebody was like 98 years old and they died of old age. Then you would say, like, the great and even legendary, you know, whoever. So, very, like, right off the bat, this is incredibly strange. It feels impersonal. There's no emotion here. It feels totally detached from the situation. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. That's fine. He was loved and admired by all, especially me. And now he's no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies. What? Go out. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife Erica and family. Charlie, I don't know. Just, it's not the worst message ever, but like right off the bat, I was thinking this just doesn't feel like it is in sync with what I'm feeling right now. And I think there were a lot of other people out there who were feeling that as well. Then he put out this statement. I'm not going to play the full thing. It's 4 minutes long. You guys have all already heard it. I'll play it for 30 seconds or so. Once again, the response here is lackluster at best.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger.
When I posted this, I had multiple people in my replies saying, this is AI, you idiot. Like, that's how bad this is. This is so bad that there were multiple people in my replies calling me an idiot because this was obviously AI to them.
The heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him.
I mean, he's just reading off a teleprompter. Now, I know that's what presidents do, but like, a 31-year-old conservative, one of the most influential, if not the most influential conservative influencer, like the guy, or one of the guys that arguably got him elected, was just assassinated at 31 years old. Like, can we do it without the teleprompter? Like, you don't need a teleprompter to memorialize somebody if you know them, if you love them, if you care that they're gone. I mean, did Nick use a teleprompter for his show? Really what I would want in a moment like this, and this isn't LARPing, by the way, this isn't LARPing, but really what I would want in a moment like this, because once again, keep in mind, this is hours after the murder took place. So our emotions are running high. What I would want in a moment like this is like a Hitler-style go-off. I'm not joking. That's not a joke. That's not he's trying to be fun. That's literally what I wanted from Trump. You know, the fires are stoked. The fires are raging. These bastards, they just took out one of the better men on our side. And this is the response that we get. This is you know, I'm not saying he should be Fed posting. I'm not saying he should be calling for, but you should be rallying the troops, metaphorically. You should be rallying the troops in a moment like this. Even if you were going to do it for political reasons. If you're Trump and you don't really care, but you want to do it for political reasons, you want to exploit the situation for political reasons, what he should have done here. Rally the troops. People are pissed, and they need that channel. They need that avenue to project what they're feeling, or to channel what they're feeling, I should say. This wasn't it, man. Actually, after watching this, I felt kind of dejected. And I was like, oh, that sucked. You know? I was still bursting with emotion at this point. Then I watched this and I was like, oh my god, what a fucking buzzkill. And you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, you guys remember when Trump was almost assassinated? And the build-up to Trump's speech at the RNC. We were thinking he is gonna go. This is going to be the go-off of all go-offs. That's what we thought. The RNC sucked. It was a total diversity fest, and we were just waiting for Trump, and it was such a slog. It was so boring. And finally, Trump, he steps up to the microphone. And, like, one of the first things he said was, I don't want to talk about it. He's like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. And I was like, what? They just tried to kill you. Brother, they just tried to kill you. All of them. These people were preying on your downfall. They almost got it. This was, once again, just like with Kirk, this was a buildup of years and years and years of rhetoric. Nazi. Somebody finally takes the shot, which is always the end game. That is always the end game. Like I've said myself in the past, people mock me for that. People go, oh, RPG's being a meanie. Always the end game when you target someone like this. Violence. You hope that maybe you're not going to do it. You're probably not going to do it. Most people probably aren't going to be the ones to do it. But if you smear someone enough, and you slander someone enough, and you lie about someone enough, and you repeat it over and over and over and over again, maybe, just maybe, one person out there, one psychopath out there will do your bidding. And when I said that, people, they don't like to hear it. You know why they don't like to hear it? Because they know it's true. And because they know that it's ugly. It's the dark reality of it all. They know that, and they say, oh no, we're just joking. Oh no, we're just joking and laughing. We don't want somebody to come to your house and kill you. And then, when it happens, look at the reaction. Look what happens to Nick. Oh, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Look at the reaction, what happens? That didn't happen. Oh no, he read his mail. Oh no, he was going up to every single door in the neighborhood and screaming Nick with his crossbow and explosives. Oh, that was just a wild coincidence. Right. And then, hold on, there's one more part to this. And then, when they finally get you, when they finally get what they wanted, when the killer is successful, then they celebrate, as we saw with Charlie Kirk, as we saw when they almost took out Trump. Then they celebrate. Then the mask, gone. Never to be seen again, because they got what they wanted. The left, they got what they wanted. Prior to his assassination, what would they have said? They would have said, oh, we don't want, no, we're just mocking him. It's all just jokes. But then he dies, and they're printing t-shirts of the kill. So, very disappointing response from Trump. Then there was this. So shortly after the killing, don't call it the death, by the way. Call it the killing, call it the murder, call it the assassination. When you say the death, it sounds like, oh, he just died. No, so I actually made a mistake here. But shortly after the slaughter, the slaying, etc., of Charlie Kirk, Mario Nafal hosted a space where just about every conservative who spoke called for civility. This is a big part of the problem, if not the entirety of it. We do not owe the people calling for, executing, and celebrating our deaths civility. We owe them justice. And at this point in time, I will actually refer to the infamous bio, the infamous RPG bio for anybody calling for unity, for anybody calling for civility. In any compromise between food and poison, it's only death that wins. And sadly, in Charlie's case, it was death that won. And that's what happens when you try to compromise with food and poison. Doesn't work. The poison wins. Every time. Every single time. Here we have a post from Uncommon Sense. He says, in a world where you could be murdered for being a Charlie Kirk, be an Adolf Hitler. Now, we're on YouTube, so I of course disavow that. He says, it costs you nothing. You are already being hunted. Facts. He says, fight back, white man. To which I responded, in times like these, one wonders, if the left isn't afraid to be Joseph Stalin, why is the right afraid to be Hitler? Once again, we're on YouTube, do not endorse that at all. But think about this. And some people might say, oh, that's exaggeration. If there's any, which I hope there aren't, but if there's any left-wing scum, well, there probably are some left-wing scumbags watching the stream right now, especially if they're from Kiwi Farms. A lot of those types taking interest in my stream. But look at New York City. Look at who the frontrunner for mayor, it is mayor, right? Yeah. The frontrunner for mayor in New York City is at the moment. Zoran Mohandi or something like this. The guy is a full-blown, unapologetic communist. Like straight up. And this isn't, by the way, this isn't like when the left used to say this about Charlie Kirk. Like, oh, he's a literal Nazi. Zoran is. Zoran is. And there are some liberals who are not, like Bill Maher. Bill Maher is not a communist. He's a little bit better these days, so maybe not the best example. Not everybody on the left is a communist, but there are many on the left who are communists. And Zoran is a communist. And he's running for mayor of New York City. And he's winning. And he's going to win. So what does that tell? What should that tell you? If you're a Republican running for office, what should that tell you? Like, there's a lesson to be learned here. There's a lesson to learn from this. They're not afraid to do it, and look at what happens when they do. Look at Trump. Not that Trump is Hitlerian at all, but like arguably he's the most Hitlerian Republican president in modern history, possibly ever. And look at Trump. Trump is a wildly popular and successful Republican. He's arguably the most popular ever. There might be data to support that. So what does that tell us? Now, by the way, when I wink and nod, when we talk about Hitler, I'm not talking about the extreme, okay? I'm not talking about the camps, okay? Like, I would be satisfied, we're on YouTube, so this is a hypothetical person saying the following statement. I would be satisfied with like a non-murderous Hitler. Hitler without the violence. I think that could be done. We could have internment camps, but just honestly, that's the only place where he went wrong. Now I know, every single time I say this, I know. That is the only place, in my opinion, where he went wrong, is, you know, once the killing begins, no good, okay? If you want to remove people, you want to deport people, you want to eject non-violently, that's totally cool with me. And I'm not talking about Jews here, whoever needs to go. Whoever hates this country, if you hate America, if you hate the native population, we're just gonna deport you. The same way we're deporting the Mexicans right now, the illegals. Like, I don't give a fuck. If you're a white U.S. citizen, but you hate white people and you are burning the American flag, you can get the fuck out. Who fucking cares? These people don't care about anything. They don't care about this amendment, that amendment, this law, that law. At this point, like law, the Constitution, these are just strangleholds on us. They don't play by the rules. Look at our justice system. You know, here's a story that's been totally swept under the rug with Arenas, Rutska. It's actually kind of crazy to think that story has been somewhat forgotten about in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk. That was a story that looked like it would live. I mean, we'll get back to it, okay? It's on the back burner right now. She's not forgotten. We're talking about her still right now. But obviously the focus right now is on Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a lot more widely known, so it makes sense that he's going to get more attention. But look at that situation. This is an animal with 14 prior arrests. What is this animal with 14 prior arrests doing among us? How is that possible? How? Who wants this? Well, the left wants this. White liberals want that. You know, that's why when it comes to, I know some people are like, oh, when it comes to race, they're like, well, you know, I don't care what your political beliefs are as long as you're white. I care what your political beliefs are, actually. Like, I want to live in a majority white nation, but also I want to live in a minority liberal nation. When I say minority, I don't mean like 60-40, I mean like 98-2. I want liberals to basically be fucking lepers. I want them to be exiled. I want them to be living in squalor and you know, for those who are familiar with me and my viewpoints, a lot of people like to blame the Jews for everything. I blame the white liberal for everything. Because the white liberal, they are ultimately the ones who have enabled it all. And some people will say, oh, well, the Jews brainwash, whatever. Me personally, I put it on the white. That's not to say that the Jews, that their hands are clean, but at the end of the day, things would not be, they could not be the way they are right now if it were not for the white liberal they have gutted, they have pilfered, they have raped this country. And right now, that needs to change. That needs to change. Okay, let's keep it going. Alrighty, here. I wrote, Trump should call for the immediate demolition and replacement of every George Floyd shrine in our country. And that's the thing. Let's actually, I think we need to back up a moment here, because I was saying, here we go. This is important first. So I wrote here, Trump's response to both the killing of Irina Zarutska and Charlie Kirk have done absolutely nothing to assure me a single thing will be done about the routine violence inflicted upon us at the hands of black people and left-wing psychopaths enabled and encouraged by those devils in the media who call themselves journalists. And why isn't Trump and every single Republican, why aren't they going scorched earth right now? If not now, when? This is it. This is the moment. This is the moment we have been waiting our entire lives for. Strike while the iron is hot. To repeat myself, not opportunistically, because it is justified. It is justified. Let's do something. You know, if Trump was a real leader during the Hitler go-off that I was saying I wanted, during the Hitler go-off, he would have said, George Floyd shrines and memorials, forget about them. They're gone. They are gone. I'm immediately calling for the demolition and replacement of every George Floyd shrine in this country. In this country, we do not praise at the altar of criminals, lowlives, scum. Instead, we should have, and I'm not saying every single one of those altars needs to be, the cat's going crazy again. I'm not saying that they all need to be Charlie Kirk altars, but let's give Charlie Kirk one. And I'm sure there's plenty of other great Americans that we can give those shrines to. Sorry, the cat just completely ruined the stream. Totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I wrote, make today the day we stop worshiping worthless scumbags and start praising real martyrs instead. Trump could have done that. This here, part of the problem. So for those of you, some of you may have heard this story. In Florida, there are pride murals in the streets, in the crosswalks, and you guys may have seen, or if you're like me, I initially thought the story was that DeSantis ordered every gay pride, the street art in the state to be removed. Like, how many people thought that was it? How many people thought that was the story, right? That they were targeting the gay pride street art and having it removed. Well, as it turns out, there's actually more to the story. And what the full story is not that Ron DeSantis has called for specifically and exclusively the gay pride murals or street art to be removed. He has called for all street art to be removed. All of it. So, like for example, there's a roundabout somewhere. You guys know the roundabout where there's 4 entrances. It's the loop. The reason why I'm explaining that is because before I moved to Florida, I saw like one of those ever, and in Florida they're very common. They're incredible, by the way. Are they even called roundabouts? That's what I call them. They're incredible. I fully back and endorse the roundabout. But yeah, so DeSantis didn't call for only the Pride art to be removed. He called for all of it to be removed. And there's a roundabout somewhere where it's actually some very nice, some very pleasant art that was on the inside of the loop. So not on the street. Or no, sorry, maybe it was actually whatever. Whatever. All you need to know is that because of this new law, this very pleasant art, it was Floridian themed. So there was orange on it, there was a flamingo, maybe there was a beach. That was removed because the law actually states that all of the art has to be removed. And why is that? That's because Republicans are fucking pussies. And I like Ron DeSantis overall. I like him overall. I think he's a great governor. I think he's the best governor in the country. But like, bro, why are we removing this very pleasant Florida? No, it should be the Pride art exclusively. And what's the argument? The argument is that is leftist propaganda. How would people on the left feel if there was Trump Street art and they would say, oh, that's not fair. We don't want our textiles going to right-wing propaganda, right-wing symbolism. Okay, so like, that's the argument. The left would make that argument. Would they not? Of course they would. The left wouldn't do a blanket ban on street art. They would target, specifically, the right-wing stuff. That's what they do. That's what they do every single time they're given the option to, like, be fair or to not be fair. They're never fair. And this brings me back to the point that I was making about Irina Zarutska, an Adel situation. And I was talking about laws and how the left has no regard for law whatsoever. No regard, no concern for law whatsoever. This is a man who was arrested 14 prior times. This is the America that these people want to live in. The white liberals want to live in a country where a man can be sitting on the bus next to you and have 14 prior arrests. They want that. They vote for that over and over and over again. They want nonviolent, they hate nonviolent white men more than black career criminals with a prior history of criminal activity that you cannot conceive of. And you look at the judge. The judge was black. You look at the judge's superior, black. You look at the superior, black. This is our justice system, and who put those people in those positions? Who put those people in those positions so that when you sit on the bus, you have a black murderer next to you? White liberals! They voted for that! They want that! They still want that! It doesn't matter how many Irina Zarutskas get gutted. It doesn't matter to them. They feel nothing when they see that video. They actually, if they feel anything, they feel a sense of positivity. Because she was white. She was white. Therefore, she deserved it. This is a reckoning for slavery. She deserved it because she was white. Never mind the fact that she's a Ukrainian immigrant, apparently. And then the next point is, like, racism, once again, not being cute, not being glib, racism saves lives, okay? If you are a parent, you plan on being one, teach your children to be racist. Because, and I posted about this, some people thought I was victim blaming, not victim blaming at all, okay? She's obviously not at fault for being stabbed to death for no reason. But if she was taught proper racism by her parents, she would be alive today. So just something to keep in mind. And this is not once again, not a joke. Not a joke. She would still be alive today. But for the people watching the stream right now, if you're not a leftist retard, if you walked onto a bus or a train and you saw this giant hooded black man and there was a seat available in front of him, would you even for 1 second consider sitting there? You would. The thought would not even incept in your mind. It wouldn't even. It just no, you wouldn't. And congratulations, you would be alive. Now there are some people out there who might say you were racist for thinking that way. Well, you know what? You know it's better to be a living racist, right? Or whatever the frickin'. How's it go? Better to be alive. You guys know what I'm going for there. You guys know. Yep. Glorium says no chance. Never turn your back on these people. Exactly. So if you love your children, if you love your wife, your husband, then, you gotta teach them what's up. Because you know what? You only get one chance. And it saves lives. Let's continue here. Back to the timeline we go. Fans live in a world where this godless pedophile, and that's being very, very generous. That's being very, very generous. And sex pest, rapist, the list goes on and on and on and on. But, that is kind of blackpilling. I don't think we should be blackpilled right now. I think we should, we have to do good from, take the situation, do good from the bad. But it really is kind of shitty when you think about it. You have guys like this. Is Destiny a good person? Think about this. Charlie Kirk was beloved by his family. I think that's a pretty strong endorsement of a person. If you are beloved by your family, if you are cherished by your family, that's a pretty, the people who know you best, the people who know you most intimately, they love you. That's a pretty strong endorsement. They would care very deeply if they lost you. Their lives would never be the same if they lost you. Very clearly, I think this applies to the Kirks, especially Erica. The children, they're young, I don't know. And then we think about Destiny. Destiny, by comparison, and I think it's an apt comparison because on the right, let's say you have Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk. On the left, who are their thought leaders? Stephen Bonnell, the rapist. Hassan Piker, the terrorist. The violent terrorist, Hassan Piker. Right, so let's do a little comparison here. Charlie Kirk, beloved by, not just his family, but beloved by his family, beloved by those who knew him best. Stephen Bonnell, reviled. Reviled by everyone who's ever gotten the chance to know. And I'm not talking about the parasocial, the audience, right? The audience, they think, oh, he's a good guy. No, I'm talking about the people who know the real Stephen Bonnell. Reviled. Is there anyone in his family who is look at his son. Look at his son on Twitter, shitting on him. And he could care less. This guy doesn't care about anything. He's a total nihilist. He's empty to his core. Look at this image of him. You couldn't take a picture of me that looked anything like this. He's dead inside. This is a dead man walking. And this isn't just like, oh, we disagree. This isn't just, oh, I disagree with Destiny, that's why. This goes beyond disagreement. We're talking about the texture of character. We're talking about his soul. That is what we are talking about here. Who this man, if you could call him that, who he is, down to the fiber of his being. Hassan Piker. Same thing with him. These are not good people. They are sociopaths. They're sociopaths. And they use the shield of liberalism and empathy and tolerance and open-mindedness and all of that. They use that as a shield to hide their sociopathy. You know, it was like Nick said when Nick did History on Charlie Kirk. It was like he said, you know, it's one thing to disagree with a person, but if you could watch a video like that and actually have a visceral reaction and actually sick to your stomach watching a human being, like, I don't like Destiny, okay? If Destiny disappeared tomorrow, wouldn't care. Not a call for violence at all. 0% call for violence. But I'm saying, if he disappeared, died of natural causes tomorrow, wouldn't mean nothing to me. I would actually think the world is a better place now. Now, you could say in response to that, well, RPG, you sound just like, how are you any different than the Charlie Kirk haters? The difference is Destiny is fucking evil. And Charlie Kirk was good. And that's the difference. And it's not just a difference of opinion. That is an objective difference between these two people, between these two individuals. So, like Destiny, this is a deeply, this is somebody who's wallowing in suffering and misery, and he's spreading it around like a virus to all who watch him. Does he come off as somebody who's happy with his life? He's how old and he's still doing drugs on like a daily basis? He's still like, that, if you are, you're knocking on 40, and you're doing, I mean, you should never do drugs, but he's doing them regularly. The guy, he is a hopeless dopamine. Can you imagine his dopamine receptors, how fried they are at this point? Playing video games constantly. You can play video games, that's fine. He plays them 10 hours straight. He's on Adderall. He's doing drugs. And obviously this explains the sex pest in him. He's just constantly on the hunt for that next hit because there's nothing in his life that provides him with meaning or purpose. He has a child, couldn't give one fuck about. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having a child and you don't even can you, I can't. But that is the difference between us and them. That's what makes me good and makes him evil. If I had a child who is alive anywhere on this earth, I would want to be with my child as much as possible. Destiny could not care less. Doesn't seem like it would bother him one bit if he ever saw his son ever again. That's a good person? He's better than us? In what way? By what metric? You know, you could go on the internet and you could talk all day about how good you are and how bad the others are. But like I said, I think a pretty solid metric to go by when judging who truly are the people that are deserving of the title good. I think if somebody is beloved by their family as Charlie was, I think that is all the evidence that I need to see that this was a good human being. Does that mean he was perfect? Not at all. Nobody's perfect, okay? There was somebody in my comments yesterday and they were like, oh, Nick Fuentes. By the way, whatever. They were like, oh, Nick Fuentes will never be a leader because he's flawed. And like, first off, who isn't flawed? Second, who the fuck are you? You're not flawed. All these people say, oh, Nick is flawed, Nick is flawed. And who the fuck are you? Like, oh, so what? You're not flawed? Then go ahead, step up to the microphone. Let's see you do it better than he does. Let's see you do it better. I mean, Nick, when he went live the other day, he had 200,000 viewers, almost. I'm rounding up. Almost 200,000 viewers. Oh, he can't be a leader. Well, it seems like he kind of is. And you know how I know he's a leader? Because not only are the gripers looking up to him for, like, guidance and setting the stage, setting the narrative, everybody who hates him is doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing. You know, there's haters in the chat. They say, here goes the Nick sucking. Not a Nick sucker. Don't need to be a Nick sucker. These are just the facts. You don't like the facts. These are just the facts. I don't need to be a Nick sucker. Nick has plenty of fans who can defend him. He doesn't, you know, I'm not doing this because, oh, hey, you know, gripers notice me. That's not what this is. I don't need to do that, okay? I don't need to do that at all. These are the facts. These are the irrefutable facts. Is it Nick sucking to say that Nick had almost 200,000 viewers? That's Nick sucking? Or is that a fact? Or is that something that happened that you can't stand? That you can't stand? Is Nick perfect? Nope. You know? Nobody is. You're not perfect. No one's ever going to be perfect. Doom says they're just jealous 100%. Yep, they're jealous. And, you know, look. You know, here's another thing that I will say, actually, because I'm not, you know, I don't owe anybody anything. During the stream the other night, Nick, he was talking about being charitable. You know, he said, like, it's important in a time like this that we be charitable. And what I'll say about that is, I mean, first off, I agree. And Nick actually confessed to this, and Nick said, rich coming from me, you know, because he confessed to the fact that he's not always the most charitable. You know, as it relates to me, as it relates to my history with him, I think I personally would make the argument that the reason why, like, an enemy, and not that my hands are 100% clean, okay, there's definitely, you know, like, there were things that I did, things that I said that I probably shouldn't have said, probably shouldn't have done, but I would contend that an enemy was made out of me due to a lack of charity. And I am of the belief that, you know, there are several ongoing feuds, there are many ongoing feuds, and Nick isn't to blame for every feud that he's in, okay? Nick is not to blame for every single feud, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there, their shit hasn't they started, you know? So every single case does have to be analyzed independently. That being said, I do get the feeling sometimes when I see, you know, I won't name any specific feuds, but I do get the feeling sometimes that there are certain feuds, maybe that are active, maybe that are in the past, that could have been avoided and for the betterment of the movement. You know, like there are people that are adversaries of America First, and sometimes I see that and I'm like, oh, like that kind of sucks. Like why is that guy in it? And you know, look, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes. There's a lot that I'm not privy to. You know, Nicky talks about Charlie. He says, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. We weren't friends. You know, there's a lot that he did behind the scenes to try to hold me down, keep me down. You know, I'm not privy to that stuff. So I'm not like saying like, oh, Nick this, Nick that. That's not what this is at all. This is coming from a place of, you know, purity, sincerity, especially right now. Okay, we're not all going to get along. We're not all going to get along. There's certain people out there, you know, like you're not going to mend relationships with everybody. It's never going to happen. But for me personally, this has sort of been a moment of refocusing. You know, like what is really the greater battle here? Is it, not going to name names, but is it this person or is it the people that want us dead? That actually want, like without exaggeration, want us dead. You know, so what I would say, what I hope is heard is, you know, I think I said what I wanted to say. Sometimes I feel like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. And then, you know, if like Nick decides he doesn't like somebody, then like you can't like, you know what? There are some examples, like Matt Walsh, for example. You know, like I've always actually like, I really like Matt Walsh a lot. I know, but as far, and he's a lot more based in recent years than he was like in 2016. Okay, now if you go back, you can find he was more cringe and he was more this and more that. But in recent years, he actually, like if you watch his show, which I do, he's basically like the only person that I watch daily. Like there's Matt Walsh, you know, Nick I'll catch if I want like it depends on the news of the day, you know, like if it's like Israel bombed Palestine today, me personally, like I just personally don't find that topic interesting. I'm not saying it's not important, it's important, but I personally just like don't find that topic interesting. You know, with like Irina Zarutska, I want to hear Nick's take on that. You know, so it depends on the news. Matt Walsh I like because he does like the normie news, he covers like the Fox News stories every day, and I just like his takes, and I think he's, once again, like Charlie Kirk, good man, you know, good man, devout, fighting the good fight, and I just have a lot of respect for him, and I like him, and I think he's a good person, and yeah, you know, Ben Shapiro is Jewish. The point that I'm making here is like to me, and I'm not saying Nick is responsible, but to me, Matt Walsh, you know what? Another part of this though, this is connected to the point that I wanted to make. Another part of this though is like, this is politics, and this is politicking. And Nick is the leader of the America First movement, and Nick is trying to assert himself as, you know, sort of like the narrative setter, the one who's setting the stage. And you know, so is someone like Charlie Kirk, right? So you have these two different thought leaders who both want to be the primary thought leader. It's politics, right? In politics, you say things to your, even if you're ideologically aligned, you know, sometimes you sling barbs. I posted about this. You sling barbs at your ideologically aligned adversaries. You fight it out, you duke it out, you assert your ideas, they assert theirs, and you know, eventually somebody emerges victorious and their ideas win. So I think a lot of what Nick does when it comes to sort of putting pressure on certain people, I think that's politics, right? Because Nick is trying to assert the America First platform over what he sees as maybe like the Ben Shapiro platform. With Charlie Kirk, you know, Nick felt like when it came to the Jewish question, the Jewish issue, that's a very important issue to Nick. That's a very perfectly fine issue to be a very important issue. You know, so what was I saying? Charlie Kirk? Oh, yeah, so it's politicking, right? So people, you know, like the haters, the seethers, the A-logs, right now, they are pointing out, oh, well, Nick said this about Charlie, and Nick said that about Charlie, and sure, like a lot of those clips probably, you know, just optically haven't aged well, but really, all that was like politics in action. And I'll get to a post that I made relating to this later in the stream, but, you know, it's very similar to like Trump and Lil Marco, Trump and Lion Ted Cruz, right? Like they were punching it out, they were enemies, Trump was calling Ted Cruz's wife a fat slob, and, you know, things got really ugly, and now, you know, Trump emerged victorious, and you know, the people who lost the contest, Ted Cruz, Lil Marco, so on and so forth, there's a lot of people who lost that contest. What did they do? Like, you have two options at that point. You could be a seething sore loser, like Chris Christie, and that's basically what a lot of these haters and seethers, that's what it is. You know, like, you can either be a sore loser, or you could be like a sore winner, or just get behind the winner. Just get behind the winner. Like, you lost fair and square, get behind the winner. And look at Marco. Marco's on the team now. Ted Cruz is on the team now. Chris Christie isn't on the team. Chris Christie is on CNN's team, and he's making a total asshat of himself every time he goes live on there. And think about, if you're a hater, you're a seether, think about the way you think about Chris Christie when he's doing that. The guy's a fucking clown. He's a joke. He's feckless. Chris Christie is a joke within the Republican Party now. Versus, look at Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio's in the cabinet. You know, Ted Cruz, close ally. Exactly. Crisis King, good point, says, Nick opposed Kirk with the intention of proving his positions wrong, not to end his life. Context is everything. Exactly. So, anyway, but I do hope that it is heard. You know, I think that maybe going forward, you know, Nick said that we should be charitable. I agree. That doesn't mean you need to let people walk all over you. That doesn't mean you need to let people take advantage of you. But I do think, you know, sometimes there are feuds that could be avoided. And I think that there are good people who should be, you know, on side who aren't. And like those people need to be given an on-ramp. Not all of them, okay? Case by case basis. But I think that would make us stronger. And this isn't like a corny, cheesy, you know, call, oh, we need to be united because, you know, united we stand, divided we, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, look, like, a lot of these people are actually good people too. And they're not all good people, but a lot of them are actually just, like, I think that, and I'm speaking, you know, in part, I'm speaking from my personal experience with America First. So, I'll leave it at that. I think I made my point. Let's continue. Actually, let's actually take a very, very, hold on, folks. Hold on, folks. Very short break here. If you guys are enjoying today's stream, allmylinks.com/RPGTV would appreciate if you wanted to throw me some coin. If you have any questions for me, you guys got questions, you can send them in a super chat. I will answer lay questions. We're on YouTube, so I don't know if I can even stream. I think I can. I'll just put some. TM says maybe change the stream's title. What's wrong with the stream's title? The stream's title should be Charlie Kirk, We Will Avenge You. Is that not the title? What's the title? It looks like that's the title. Why? What's wrong with that? How dare you? How dare you insult my title? My title is beautiful. Okay, let's take a very, very short break. Getting a little bit hungry, so I'm going to go grab a snack, and we will keep this ball rolling. Allmylinks.com if you want to support, and share the link. Share the link, okay? Let your friends know. I know you guys, you're on Discord, you're on Telegram, you're on Twitter, you're on X. Let's go. Let's start spreading the word. And I will be right back. Did I mute the audio? Crap. Yeah, I just realized I muted the audio. That was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to mute the microphone, not the audio. Press the wrong button. Look, what do you expect, okay, from a guy who streams once a century? My bizzle. I'll read the chat for the next 20 seconds, and then we're going to keep going. We've only just begun. What is up, Glorium? Always a pleasure to see you, sir. Always a pleasure. We love Glorium, Willie Hole. Latest, greatest. What is going on, man? He says, now I'm hungry. Yeah, I was trying to eat off camera. Because I don't want to, I don't want to hunger you. I failed my mission. Well, once I realized that the audio was muted, then I had to come rushing back before I lost my entire audience of... How many viewers we got right now? 5,000? Not bad. That's okay. That's okay. It's a little low for me, but I'll take it. Kind of went live on a whim. Yo, Vindictive. Gotta give a very, very special shout out to Vindictive Vindicator. Arguably the reason why we're live right now. You know what? It's not arguing. He gave me the push. Got the text. Got the DM from my brother. And he was like, yo, we need you right now, RPG. The people need you right now. And I was like, you know what it was? I was already thinking about it. I was like, maybe I'll stream this weekend. But then I got that text from Vindictive Vindicator. And I was like, damn, this is divine intervention. I have to do it. I have to do it. So, big shout out in 07 to Vindictive Vindicator. Love you, man. Always glad to have you here. Tay says, are you only streaming on YouTube now? YouTube and Kick. I mean, I stream like once a month now. Someone says that I'm uniting with the COG bots. Are those people who are fans of COG or people who dislike COG? You know what? Why would I even say the name? Why would I just forget that? Why would I even say the name? Adrian says I was expecting you. Well, I'm glad that I met your expectation then. Rusty, what's up? Yo, Johnny Bad, what's up, Johnny Bad? Always great to see you guys, the OGs. The OGs. Here through thick and thin. Those are very special people. Trying to just make sure there's no food in my mouth. By the way, we'll do some quick product placement here. This Stanley tumbler is fucking awesome. Okay, and I'm not selling it. I know people are gonna clip this, and I'm not selling this. This is just awesome. This one, see, a lot of people you'll see, they have the ones with the straw. That's the removable straw. That one sucks. Okay, what you want? You want the flip straw. You want the flip straw? This thing, love it. I've never drank more water in my life. It's just endless. Endless H2O. Okay, so moving along, folks. Let's get back to it. Lots. Still more to get to. Okay. One refrain I've seen in the light of Charlie Kirk's assassination is the violence needs to stop because we're all Americans. Yeah, I'm not riding that wave, okay? I'm not riding that wave that we're all American, are we? Because I'm pretty sure, there's like 1,000 reasons you can list why it doesn't feel that way. But, here's one good example, I think. Here's one good example. Can anybody explain to me why flag burning is exclusive to only leftists do this? These are American? That's American? I know some people, I know lying scumbags would say, that's the most American thing you could do! That's the most American thing you could do, because that's free. No, that's not free speech. I'm sorry. No, desecrating our national symbol, like the reason why you exist, why everything exists, everything great in your life, everything great in this world exists. You want to desecrate and destroy? Oh, that's like the least American act. That's actually the least American thing you could do. There's actually, I can't think of too many other things that would be less American than this. So, that's an argument that needs to be thrown in the trash. That one's going in the trash. I never watch Crowder. I don't like Steven Crowder. I don't like him. Well, I don't like him. I think he's a dick. I think he's probably a dick. There's really nothing about him that seems genuine. Whatever. I don't like Steven Crowder. Okay? But following the murder of Charlie Kirk, I was like, I needed content. Okay? Normally I'm not like this, but I needed content. And it was early in the day, and I was like, give me content. Give me content. I was Dave Chappelle. I was withdrawing. So Crowder was live. I turned it on. Sucked. It just did not hit at all. It just felt very, very melodramatic, and like the voice and the cadence, and it just didn't work for me at all. So I did share my thoughts on that. Dean Withers. So Dean Withers, I guess he watched the video of Charlie Kirk being assassinated live, and because he's like a human being with a pulse, he teared up. He was crying because like he had witnessed a human being being slaughtered without cause, sense, or reason. And he was being called out by that. For that by the left. Jasper writes, performative white man. Let's just pause right there, because I've been seeing a lot of that, actually. As far as it pertains to Dean Withers. Dean Withers, look, this guy's a race traitor, okay? I'm not saying Dean is our guy. Maybe one day he'll be our guy. I don't know. Seems like maybe, with some guidance we can get him on the right track. Dean, currently, though, race traitor. All right, so let's just let that be known first. But you have all these white race traitors, and they all got BLM in the bio, Black Lives Matter in the bio. But when push comes to shove, and at the end of the day, this is what they think about you. This is what the blacks, this is what the browns, this is what they think of you. At the end of the day, you're just a white man. And the second that you are no longer useful to them, discarded, away you go. White man, whitey, white boy. We've been seeing a lot of that when it comes to Dean Withers. You would think of these people, if they had like eyes, brains, thoughts, thinking, you would think that maybe this would be a wake-up call for them, and maybe these people aren't exactly, maybe we're not exactly allies, or maybe this alliance is like not going both ways. Honestly, I feel like there's way more racial vitriol on the left than there is on the right, which of course is ironic because conservatives are we're the party of racism and bigotry and all that. And I know it's kind of like trying to say, right, like Bill O'Reilly would say this probably, but it really is true that if you are a conservative, if you're a conservative, if you're a white guy, you have like a friend who's Puerto Rican, you don't care. You don't care. Like they might make a joke about, like, people like they said about me, oh, you're Italian, you're black. I'm not like, oh, hey man, not cool. That was racist, okay? No, I just laugh because like I don't fucking care. It's a joke. So right people feel comfortable using racial humor among each other, which actually brings us closer together. It really does, because there needs to be a level of comfort in order to kind of dig at someone in that way, to be playful with someone in that way. But then you look at the left, and it's a pit of vipers over there. It's a pit of vipers. The second white boy steps out of line, and how do you step out of line? He cried. He had a normal human reaction to watching somebody be killed. Cried. That's the human thing to do. And Jasper, who I assume is not white, says, performative white man, only in it for the money, known as Dean Withers, is sobbing on TikTok Live over Charlie Kirk's passing. Note the language there, obviously deliberate, is passing. And these posts they were blowing up. Okay, this wasn't the only post like this. Blowing up. All of Black Twitter calling Dean Withers out. And just like that, Dean, you are nothing to them. You are nothing to them. Maybe at some point. He's still young, right? So I feel like when people are younger, you have to give them a little more charity. It's hard to do. It's hard because when somebody is, betraying their race, that's not an easy pill to swallow. But he is young. It's something to keep in mind. A lot of us had really stupid ideas when we were young, too. Not everybody's born red pill. Not everybody's born into a red pill family, so that is something to consider. But, and then I added left-wing terrorists. By the way, right now, like, if you are on social media and you are posting about these people, use the most explicit, when I say explicit, I don't mean profane, use the most explicit and precise language. Like, really put a lot of thought. Not that this is the most masterfully written post of my lifetime, but be very explicit and precise in how we are addressing these people right now, how we are classifying them, how we are categorizing them. Just something to keep in mind. Left-wing terrorist sympathizer. Like, don't sugarcoat it is what I'm saying, okay? Don't sugarcoat it. They're seething because Dean Withers cried after watching a man get assassinated for engaging in a peaceful and democratic exchange of ideas. The post has more than 100,000 likes. Democracy may not be as sacred to these people as they purport. And this reminds me of the point that I was making earlier, but I got sidetracked from when I was talking about how the left has no regard for law whatsoever. And, democracy. This is another one of these ridiculous, it's basically become a buzzword at this point, that they just love to throw in our faces. But what did they do when Charlie Kirk? So they don't care. They love democracy when elections are rigged. Then democracy is the best thing ever. When they got their thumb on the scale. Then they love democracy. So they don't care about that. They don't care about free speech. They don't care about any of it. I made this point before. I think it's important enough to say again, because there's like a billion posts like this. This has almost 500,000 likes. Obviously, this is a black person. And they say, y'all want racists dead until they actually die. 500,000 likes. And I made the point here that there's nobody on earth who uses the word racist as a pejorative that doesn't hate white people. And if somebody calls you racist, you respond with, you hate white people, because they do hate white people, and they're therefore no better than you are. Okay, so I kind of touched on this. A lot of people seemed to like this post, so I'll actually go through it. So Nick, he did his big stream on Charlie Kirk. He did a great job. Look, the message was on point, okay? The message, it was on point. It was based in Christianity. That's the most important thing. So the message was absolutely correct, and I'm not going to say otherwise. Personally, just out of a personal... Personally, right now, it was good. And there were moments that were impassioned. There were moments where the temperature was raised. Okay, he called out Hassan Piker. That was good stuff. That was good shit. And of course, he's talking about being charitable, so maybe he can't, go off the way that some of us wanted. But, me, I'm looking for... I can't use certain words right now. I need fury. He was furious. Don't get me wrong. He was furious. He was furious. And there were moments of righteous indignation. But I have to say, even though I am absolutely one who adheres to Christian morality, I think it is the only true morality, so that is my my personal position. I need fire. I need fire. There was fire. There was rage. Okay, there was. I'm not saying that there wasn't, but I needed more. I needed more. A little bit more. Okay, like, want to repeat myself? The message was on point. The message was correct. And the thing about Nick, it's easy for me to say, actually. I wanted to also make this point. Easy for me to say because I'm not in Nick's position, okay? Like, I don't have people, well, maybe I can't say that, but because there are people who are. Here's what I'll say. Nick has more targets on his back than I do, and it's not even close. Okay? Like, by comparison, he's extremely notorious at this point. So he has to be very careful with his words, with his messaging, with his temperament. Totally get that we are not in the same position, and it is very, very, very easy for me to say, Nick should have said, race war now. Nick should have called for TND. So I do have to be fair here, okay? You have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people looking up to Nick for guidance. The same cannot be said for me, okay? So it's very easy for me to say to my meager audience of 10,000 right now, it's very easy for me to say, like, whatever, to make bold, brash, inflammatory statements. I'm not in the same position that he's in. But I'm just saying, like, from a totally selfish perspective, Anyway, so in response, Gloria makes a good point that I also wanted to touch on. He says, you can tell it really affected him. Yes, I also wanted to point that out as well. It affected him like it affected the rest, and you could tell. You could tell that he was feeling what we were feeling. This is something that was totally absent from Trump's address. You could really, really feel that this was something that had genuinely affected him, despite their differences. Personally, I felt like whatever differences there were prior to his murder, it's like in that moment, in the wake of an event like this, you're not thinking like that. You're not thinking like that. As I explained earlier in the stream, politics. It's politics. Nick said some things about him. Charlie said some things back, called him a troll or whatever. And Nick might have been more aggressive, but Nick was the one who, Nick is trying to, Nick has a goal in mind. Nick has a goal in mind, and Nick needs to sort of provoke Charlie so that the debate, the conversation, whatever, happens. If Nick doesn't say anything and Nick is just hiding off in his little corner and keeping his opinions to himself, like, this is what Nick does. That's the thing. This is what he does. This is his strategy. A lot of people, I don't want to say they don't get it, but a lot of people, I guess they pretend not to get it, and they're like, oh, Nick is this and Nick. No, this is his strategy, and it's working, and it has always worked. He starts a firestorm, he gets attention, and then what does he do? Like, think about how many people who he, viciously warred with, but then when they actually got together and they sat in the same room and they spoke face to face, as cordial and as pleasant as could be and as respectful as could be, that's Nick's strategy. That's how he wins. Like Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems. This is how I win. That's what he does. And people think that, like, oh, he's just being a this, he's just being a that. Sometimes it could be a little much, maybe. A little more than needed sometimes. But overall, that's the strategy, and it worked. Good example with Tim Pool. Nick has been really, and rightfully so, because Tim Pool is a pussy and a bitch. Oh my god, I was tuned in for a few minutes the other day listening to Tim Pool. What a fucking dummy, man. Holy shit, like, I don't, profess to be the smartest political commentator, in the scene. But Tim Pool, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why does he have viewers? Not that he should have no viewers, but there's just not a lot going on there. And then he's got this retard co-host, Ian, who's like, bro, dude, it's like, the universe is like, what the fuck? Like, people are watching this? A lot of people are watching this? That I don't get. But, there's so many points I want to make today that, and I usually lose my train of thought, but today it's, worse than usual, because there's so many points that I'm trying to make. Oh, okay, just came back to Tim Pool. Yeah, so, if Tim Pool, knock on wood, not trying to jinx it or anything, but if Tim Pool were to pass tomorrow, it might seem, like with Charlie Kirk, it might seem like, oh, Nick was a real asshole to Tim Pool. Well, what Nick was trying to do, I don't think Nick hates Tim Pool. I'm sure there's some bad blood there just because Tim Pool is being a pussy and won't have Nick on his show. Still won't have him on his show. It's like, bro, like, what's the excuse now? And that'll be one of your biggest shows. And what do you think Nick is going to do? Why is he so afraid? What is Nick going to do? Nick's going to talk to him. Nick's not going to debate him. I mean, they might debate a little bit, but it's not going to be like a contentious debate. He's going to have a conversation with him. And then there's going to be, like, a new audience that, I mean, it's less and less likely now that there's people that are unfamiliar with Nick, but this is what Nick has done. Nick has, he's kind of gone on this show. It kind of started with, like, Pearl Davis. Like, that was one of the first big ones. I feel like that was, like, one of the first big influencers, right? And I remember back when I was in A-Log this happened, at the time, I was like, what? Like, that to me, just as a collaboration, didn't make sense. So I remember just thinking it was weird and that their brands didn't really fit necessarily. But Nick knew what he was doing. He was tapping into the YouTube audience. And he grew. And then he did a collab with this person. And he grew. And he grew, and he grew, and he grew, and he grew. And now he's streaming live to 170, 180,000 live viewers. And you have these, like, clowns who are going on their streams with 200 viewers to, oh, Nick will never be a leader. And I have 200 viewers. But Nick will, it's like, bro, like, just put the clown makeup on and get it over with fucking alternate universe. Like, look, you don't like Nick, that's fine. That's fine. Like, you don't have to like Nick, whatever. But this like eternal delusion is just sad. It's sad. Nick won. He won. That's it. Nick won. You lost. You could be a bitch about it. You could be a seething bitch and eternally cry. Or you could just, like, it's like, who do you respect more? Who do you respect more? You know, when people, they duke it out, boxers, they fight it out, they beat the living shit out of each other, and then when, you know, the fight is called, who do you respect more? The loser who approaches the winner and said, you know, like, they shake hands, bro fist, whatever, they come together, they say, you know what, man, you got me good out there. You got me good. You respect that guy more, or do you respect the guy who's like, oh, he did this and he did that, and he cheated, and who do you respect more? You know, I had a grudge with Nick. I got over it. I had a grudge. I got over it. I think that's the natural course of things. You know, some people are like, oh, you dislike Nick, you have to hate him forever. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. It's like, no, people, if you're a real human being, your mind changes, okay? Your mind changes. That's like what real human beings do. If you're an eternal seether, and for a lot of these people, it's a grift. For a lot of these people, it's a grift. Like, honestly, for me, it was not a grift, okay? I had a genuine grudge. That was not a grift. That was not a grift. But towards the very end, it started to feel, like, I'm talking the very end. I'm not talking like the last 6 months. I'm talking like the very end. Like, pretty much when the Kanye West, when he started, you know, chilling with Kanye, or Ye, excuse me. By the way, I still think the Ye thing is corny. I'm probably, you know, he's Kanye. He's fucking Kanye, okay? In my opinion. I think like the Ye shit, whatever. Not the point. But around the time when Nick started hanging out with Kanye, at that point, like, it was just so clear. It was so clear that it was over that I was just like, then it started to feel like a graft. Then it started to feel like I'm just going live and telling the people who watch me, not that, you know, people are saying, oh, so that means you're lying? Look, you can take what I'm saying in good faith, or you can be, you know, you can twist it how you want. I'm saying towards the very, very end. It got to the point where it's like, fuck, like, how am I supposed to turn this unequivocal dub into an L? There's some people, won't name names, there's some people who are still doing that. Like, 2 years later, more than 2 years later, there are some people, that is what they do for a living, is they look at Nick's endless stream of dubs, and they go, fuck, how am I going to turn this into an L today? I know, I'll make shit up. There's some people whose lives still depend on that. Me, not that guy. My life does not depend, and I'm very, very happy about that. Because you know what it is? You see these people, and you're like, you could just tell, you could just see in the eyes, you could hear it in the cadence, you could just tell, like, this is a grift. This is a grift through and through, and these people, they have no choice. They have no choice. That's the thing. You can see the misery. You can see the misery behind the eyes, the meaninglessness behind the eyes, the weakness in the voice, the weakness and the shaking of the voice. You hear this, you know they don't believe what they're saying, but they have no choice. So the grift must go on. The grift must go on. And we don't need to name any names. We don't need to name names. But let's see, we have a Cedar in the chat who says, I watched RPG for a long time. Yeah, well, we both did nasty things to each other. He and I both did nasty things to each other. People do nasty things when they fight with each other. But you know what? You know, a lot of people like to say, oh, well, what about when Nick did this? What about when Nick did that? The people who say that, the people who say that to me, nothing even comes close to what the people who say that to me, what they have done. Nothing even pales in comparison. So whenever people say, oh, well, what about when Nick did? What about when you did what you did, fucker? What about when you, like, you know, there's blood dripping from your hands, and you want to come here, and you want to say, oh, well, Nick said this, and Nick said that. I've asked and answered 1,000 times. Asked and answered 1,000 times. And what about what people like you did to me? And for what reason? And for what reason? And what did I do to you? So, you can take that, you can shove it up your ass, shove it where the sun don't shine, go fuck yourself. You're not welcome here. You'll never be welcome, unless you can stop being a bitch. But what you people did to me, you know, that was true evil. That was pure sadism. That was true evil. It was. What had I done to deserve what these people did to me? What had I done as a person to deserve what these people did to me? Which you all, or not you all, but people like this participate. You were more than happy to join the dog pile. You were more than happy to do it. And now you want to come here, you want to lecture me? Oh, well, you this, fuck you, man. Go fuck yourself. Seriously. What these people did? It's really, you know, the nerve. And I know these are the trolls, you're responsible to trolls, and I know, but, you know, this is what people, I mean, this is someone who claims to be a former viewer. Don't know if that's true, but they claim to be a former viewer, and, you know, it's unfortunate because a lot of my former viewers, they won't watch me anymore because of all the lies that were spread about me, and because the way that I was framed by people who were trying to destroy me for personal reasons, and it's, you know, I could get into all of that. People who are psychotically obsessed with me, you know, like their leader, I said he was unfunny once, 3 years ago, became psychotically obsessed with me. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces. You know, the guy claims, oh, I don't care about anything, and everything I do is just one big joke, and you can never bother me because I don't care about anything. Yeah, well, call him unfunny one single time and see how much he doesn't care. See how much he doesn't care. You know, Josh makes a comment about this person. I don't care at all. I'm about to do an hours-long stream about this person. I don't care at all about them, though. So, I don't know. Maybe some people do care a little bit more than they let on. And by the way, we're gonna get back to the content here. You know, I'll entertain this for a few more seconds. Like, you're saying Nick is a homosexual. Whoa, wow, how do I contend with that? Wow, the walls are shaking. I don't watch you because You are a... Yeah, okay. You could take him out. That's fine by me. It's just crazy. Like, even after all this time, you're still hung up. You know, very, very similar to the people who made Charlie Kirk brainwashed, right? Like, they watched these streams for these people who are personally vested. That was, like, see, the thing is, a lot of people think, like, oh, these are just funny jokes. No, like, these people were personally vested in doing what they did to me. Personally vested in doing what they did to me. You know, to smear me and to destroy my reputation when I had done what? What had I done wrong? But you discount all of that. You discount all of that. And you know why? It's because you hate me, just like the people who hate Charlie Kirk, just like the people who hate Nick. You hate me. There's no reasoning with you. You know, you watch a stream and some fat, worthless piece of shit, complete a total loser in every way possible. His brain dead co-host. You know, they sold you a bill of goods. You bought it. Everybody jumped in on that dog pile. And now I'm just a permanent villain. To some people, I'm just a permanent villain. Okay, let's get back to the content here. But that was actually, the reason why I'm talking about this is that was actually a thought that crossed my mind. You know, I was actually kind of thinking about all that stuff. You know, Nick was talking about, like, what kind of person are you that you could watch a video like that and you could take sadistic pleasure in that. And let's just say that I found the statement relatable. Okay, let's keep it going. We were talking about Nick, and I wrote here, oh yeah, so after Nick's stream, you know, all the seeders were out there posting clips. Oh, here's what Nick had to say about Charlie Kirk. Here's what Nick had to say about Charlie Kirk last month. And I'm not going to play the clip, not because I'm covering for Nick, not because it's stupid. Because, yeah, we know the history there. He wasn't calling, we know the history. Yeah, it's a political disagreement. He said, Charlie's this, Charlie's that. I already discussed all of that, why things were the way that they were between them, politicking. So I responded to this, and I said, it's common in politics for two ideologically aligned adversaries to sling bar. I already made this point, right? Nick's sustained pressure campaign on Charlie is the reason he crept slowly to our side, slowly closer to our side. Given more time, he might have gotten there entirely. Regardless, it's clear Nick had great respect for Charlie to even deem him a worthy foe. Haters will always spin it to suit their ends, as I've been saying. Haters are, that's another thing too. Like, that's why you can't get too worked up when it comes to what the haters say. And I know some people will say, because no matter what you do, they are always going to spin it to the negative. There are 100 things that I've said so far during the stream that some loser out there is going to spin to the negative. They're going to take it out of context. That's just what you're dealing with when you, I guess, have, you know, people that dislike you. And if you are a streamer and you have like a following of more than 10 people, then there's going to be someone that dislikes you. But, you know, I said, as far as I'm concerned, the slate has been wiped clean. I saw a lot of seeding on the timeline. You know, the usual seed specs. Saw a lot of seeding on the timeline after Nick went live. And honestly, I think sort of the ultimate reason why people reacted so strongly, you know, the ones who reacted negatively, I think the reason why they reacted so strongly is because of how good it was. And of course, they're going to say, what? But actually, though, like, they're mad because of how on point the message is. Like, you didn't know. What is Nick going to say? What is his reaction going to be? What take? Is he going to go aggressive? Is he going to, like, what? We don't know, right? So it's a complete mystery. And it was so bulletproof. It was so airtight that they're mad because, like, you know, it's like I make this analogy a lot, this reference a lot. It's like a Wile E. Coyote situation. Like, imagine you're the coyote, you're Wiley, and you think you finally got him. And you're like, oh, well, you know, Nick said this about Charlie Kirk, so there's no way he's going to get through this stream without looking like a hypocrite or whatever, right? So they're like, Wiley, you know, Wiley, he puts the bib on, he's got the fork and knife out, he's licking his lips, he's, oh, here we go. I'm finally, for once and for all, I'm going to get that fucker. And then, like, a boulder just comes out of nowhere and crushes them. That's what it is. So Nick did a stream, and then the boulder came crashing down, and they were pissed. They were livid. There was smoke coming out of their ears. They were punching air. They were apoplectic. They were hooked up to breathing machines, hooked up to tubes, like on life support, heart rate monitor, flatlining. They were mad, and they were mad because, like, Nick just he killed it. He crushed it. It was airtight. That scared the fuck out of me. So loud. _bad sent $5. Can I get a hell yeah for all the recently fired lefties? Just those applications off. Let's fucking go! Okay, I kind of ruined that because I didn't have the sound that I was looking for. Let's try it one more time. Let's fucking go! Yo, Johnny Bad with the 507, and we are going to get to the firings. There's still a lot we're going to get to. This is going to be a long stream today. We got a few more hours here. All right, so if you're enjoying and you want to support, like Johnny Bad just did, 07 Johnny Bad, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you, man. I do appreciate that. Moving along. There are millions of left-wing empaths, as they call themselves, out there who conveniently convince themselves hate is a right-wing phenomenon. They think that we on the right have a monopoly on hate. Therefore, we are the hateful ones and they are, like, anti-hate, which therefore gives them free reign to brutally slaughter us all. And you need to understand, I know you do, This is their true mentality. We know that for certain. If there was any doubt, we know that for certain. This is their mentality. Charlie Kirk, it really doesn't get more innocent than Charlie Kirk. It doesn't get more innocent than him. But look at what they're calling him. Look at what they've been calling him, what they're still calling him today. Pay very close attention. Act accordingly. I said this will never change until our media, universities, and every other institution responsible for poisoning their minds is eradicated, root and stem. And this is where we need real leadership. Trump is not the guy. Look, I voted for Trump. Trump, I do still believe, even though he's disappointing in many, many ways, do still believe that Trump is better than Kamala. That being said, Trump is not the guy. Trump is not the leader that we need. Like, so far, what has Trump's reaction tangibly been to the execution of Charlie Kirk? Nothing. What did we get? We got nothing. He put out a statement. Oh, we're going to put the flags at half-mast. Okay, I mean, fine. But, we need so much more than that. Why isn't Trump calling for the takedown of Reddit, which has become, it is a left-wing terrorism harbor ground? Like, look at Twitch. Look at the most watched streamer on Twitch. He has, these aren't tongue-in-cheek jokes. These aren't, like, cutesy references. Hassan Piker has explicitly, and we're going to watch that clip. There's one going around, all the greatest hits. For all the bitching and moaning that these people do about Nick. Oh, Nick, the clip that they love to play is the cookie question. That was an actual joke. That was actually the difference between, like, Nick saying the cookie question and Hassan saying America deserved 9/11. Hassan wasn't joking. That wasn't a joke. He meant that. He actually believes that America deserved 9/11. He believes that. And when Hassan posts an image, an instruction manual on how to build a homemade gun and kill a U.S. senator, that was not a joke. There's no joke there. There's no punchline. Now, with the cookie question, first off, Nick doesn't want to kill Jews, okay? So, just for starters, Nick doesn't want to kill Jews. Hassan does want to kill sitting U.S. senators, or just all Republicans, period, but conservatives, Republicans, anybody right-wing, Hassan wants to kill. Nick doesn't want to kill Jews. Nick, in his most controversial statement of all time, the cookie question, was making a joke, and the punchline, which we all know, but the punchline is, it calls into question the number, the death toll. That's the joke. And it's a funny joke, actually. It is a funny joke, because, the numbers, can they be trusted? I personally don't trust them. I have no reason to trust them. I mean, these people who lie about absolutely everything else before our eyes, in this moment, right now, look at your timeline. Look at your timeline, and what do you see? Who are they saying is the killer, right? So, before our eyes, we are all witnessing together the lies that these people are willing to tell to obfuscate reality, except for when it comes to this one particular statistic. Now, look, if there was a mass killing, whether it's 1 million, even if it's 100,000, that's still bad, okay? It's still very, very, very bad. Whether it's 1 million or it's just 100, very bad, regardless. But the running joke is this figure to be trusted? That's a funny joke. Okay? That's not a call to violence. Nick doesn't want to kill Jews. He doesn't want to harm Jews. I think he wants to lawfully diminish their influence over us. That's fine. That's not murder. That's politics. That's democracy. That's fine. That's, within the lines. That's fair game. So, yeah, that's the difference. And then, you look at someone like Nick, banned everywhere, right? Banned in less places now, but still, for many, 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 many years, banned everywhere. Certainly was not allowed on Twitch. Certainly would not be allowed on Reddit. I mean, anybody with a Reddit account or who tried to put a Reddit account knows that you cannot be even the most basic bitch conservative on Reddit without getting banned. Like right now, to this very day, Reddit has not changed at all. Same with Twitch. I was banned from Twitch. They accused me of being a terrorist when I was a normie-con. When I was watching Bill O'Reilly, I was banned from Twitch for, they wrote in the email that I got, I have it to this day, I saved it, it said that I was spreading terrorist propaganda as a normie-con. Then you have Hassan Piker, who is posting images. Here is how you kill a U.S. senator. He was temporarily suspended for like 3 days tops. And he's still on the platform? What the hell is going on here? Why aren't people on this? Why isn't, you might say, oh, that's an issue beneath Trump. Okay, well, can we get a senator? Can we get one senator to comment on this? How is it possible, especially now in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, how the hell is this guy still allowed to stream on Twitch? And there is a very, very, very long and extensive list of him saying not things that you disagree with, not things that are, offensive, like Nick might have said, that you find offensive if you're a pussy, but actual, explicit calls to violence, incitement of violence. Nick doesn't do that. I've been watching Nick for years. He doesn't do that. And he's smart enough to do that, but he doesn't do that. Nick doesn't fed post. Nick doesn't wink. Nick doesn't make a remark and then wink and nod. Wink, wink. He doesn't do that. Because that's not what he wants to do. That's not what he's about. That's not what the movement is about. If it is, then I guess I'm just oblivious to that. But it's not. It's not. Because I know who I am. I know who these people are. As I said, he wants to lawfully diminish foreign influence, whether it's the Jews, whoever. Like, we should not live in a country where Ilhan Omar has any authority over us. I'm not saying that, what is she, Somalian? I'm not saying no Somalians can have authority over us, but if you are a foreigner and you hate the native population, you cannot have authority over us. You cannot have authority over us. I don't fucking care what you think about that. Is that racist? I do not care. This is our country. This is not your country. If you want power over people, go back to your country then. If you're not with us, if you're with us, okay, go ahead. You can be black and you can lead something. That's fine. But if you're gonna come here and you're gonna spit in our face, get out. And Republicans need to say this, not just like streamers. Trump needs to be saying that. So, how is Hassan still streaming on Twitch? Why isn't there a massive call from people like in authoritative positions, FBI? What's going on here? If there was a huge, we don't have to say if there was Nick Fuentes, right? But if there was a huge right-wing streamer, well, this isn't Nick, but if there was a huge streamer who is posting instruction manuals on how to kill somebody, like, that person, they would go to jail. And they should go to jail. That's wild. But he did that, and he got away with it. What's going on? You're telling me Trump can't lean on Bezos and say, bro, like, clean this shit up. You're telling me Trump can't lean on Bezos and make that happen? It's just, like, what is going on? What are we waiting for? The left wouldn't hesitate to do any of this. They never have. They're ruthless. They're ruthless when they shouldn't be. But Republicans are meek when they ought not to be. I don't know, maybe we just have to wait for the next generation, the next wave of Republicans. Maybe that's when it changes.
Johnny _Bad sent $5. Sam Hyde should keep his promise to Hassan.
Didn't miss it that time. Could not agree more strongly. And once again, even with Sam Hyde, when Sam Hyde says that, I mean, I don't know if Sam Hyde would be bothered if they fought and things didn't go as planned, but even when Sam Hyde says that, really what he means is he wants to do some damage. Like I said, Sam Hyde is he's kind of in a category of his own, so when he says it, I don't know if he means it. Maybe he does mean that. Maybe he does. And he has, I'm trying to be careful here. I am. But either way, agree very, very, very strongly with the sentiment. Very strongly. Things are getting interesting now. Nick's on the cover of the New York Times. Hassan is finally acknowledging his existence. Apparently, Nick went from being an irrelevant Nazi to a relevant Nazi, which is total cope, obviously, because Nick is, like, more relevant than he is, I'm pretty sure. And if I didn't say thank you, Johnny Bad, for another super chat. 07, man. Oh, I always make this point, but, on one of the bullet casings, the killer engraved, quote, "If you read this, you are gay," laughing my ass off. And it's just funny, like, even engaged in the ultimate act of violence, the left, they cannot refrain from letting us know how they really feel about homosexuals. Like, even, you would think maybe he would really want to be airtight on this. This is a message that's going to be heard around the world. They just, and, that will never not entertain me. That will never not entertain me, because really tells you everything you need to know about what they really think when it comes to that issue. Twice in 2 weeks, left-wing terrorists murdered white Christians unprovoked using bullets engraved with Reddit brain rot, just as Luigi Mangione did. These are not one-off incidents. This is a pattern. Clearly, Luigi Mangione, he did what he did. He was glorified. He was idolized. I mean, this is crazy shit. Like, there were music festivals and concerts where, these artists, if you could call them that, they had his image up on the screen, up on the Jumbotron. And then, surprise, surprise, fast forward a few months later, and look at that. We already have 2 copycats. Already 2. And, we can only hope that this is the end of it. But, surprise, surprise, when you glorify somebody like that, now you have a bunch of stupid assholes out there that want to be the next Luigi. That's what you did. You have a bunch of Redditors out there who they want updates. Like, that's what it is. They want IRL updates. So this, people are saying a lot of things. They were saying, oh, he's a genius because he has a 4.0 GPA. You can have a 4.0 GPA and still be a retard. Like, there's a lot of smart people. There's different types of intelligence. You could be extremely book smart and you could have 0 street smarts. You could be, have a 4.0 GPA and, like, think that men are women and vice versa. Like, and this is completely unrelated to the current point that I'm making, but a lot of people, they were saying that, oh, this was done by a professional. Like, that was sort of a prevailing thought. And there was even, like, experts I saw on Fox News who were saying that. They were saying, oh, no doubt, this was a professional hit. First off, I mean, look, I don't know. Well, I'm not trained in long-range weaponry, so, but first off, like, it wouldn't take an enormous amount of training to hit a target at center mass from that distance, first off. Secondly, what a lot of people don't know, and they actually still don't, I think a lot of people are maybe going to be hearing this for the first time, some of you at least, is a lot of people, this hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'm almost positive this is the case. A lot of people, because the thing is people thought that he was shot in the neck. People thought he was shot in the neck, so they were thinking like, whoa, if he was shot in the neck, then this must be a trained professional. But actually, a trained professional wouldn't be aiming for the neck. Now, they might be aiming for the head because they're trying to create a graphic and gruesome scene. Normally, if you were like in war, you would not aim for the head, you would aim for center mass, because that's all you need to do, to kill someone. But if this is political terrorism, which is obviously what this was, then you might aim for the head because you're trying to create this, because if you shoot them in the chest and they die, that's far less graphic, obviously, than if their head explodes. So, but what actually happened, well, first off, it was a high caliber rifle, so it was gonna do damage basically anywhere it hit. What actually happened is he was wearing a vest of some sort, like a bulletproof vest or a shield or something. I don't know the exact terminology is. I'll just call it a vest. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, and if you watch the video very, very slowly, what you'll actually see is the bullet does not make contact with his neck. The bullet actually makes contact with, like, his upper chest right here. And in slow motion, what you'll see is his shirt flies upwards. His shirt flies upwards. In slower motion, zoom in, you'll see a shockwave around where the bullet made contact with his chest. Now, what happened next? He wasn't using like the highest, caliber's not the right word, but he wasn't using the highest. So there are different levels of bulletproof vests. There are ones that are more sophisticated that have more more protections than others. He was using Adrian is saying a plate vest, so I'm going to assume that that's the right term. He was using a plate vest, which kind of it's more basic than other types that are out there. And what happened is the bullet makes contact with his chest, and then it spalls, which is a term that I learned just recently. And basically, the bullet makes contact, and then it splits into very many tiny pieces. So it then became like a spray. The bullet split and became like a bunch of tiny projectiles. And those projectiles, that debris, went from the point of contact on his chest. And it's actually, to me, this makes it worse because it's almost as if he was killed by chance. Now, of course, this was a deliberate hit, so I'm not talking about that aspect. But in a sense, it was like he was killed by chance because once that bullet makes contact and it spalls, the spalling, the debris, the trajectory of the debris can go anywhere. It could take any direction. It could go up. It could go down. It could go left. It could go right. It could, so it's really, really even more sad and unfortunate what the outcome was here because he was wearing protection. Now, there are more sophisticated vests that actually have anti-spalling. If he was wearing an anti-spalling vest, they say he actually could, would potentially still be alive because then the bullet would not have split into pieces. So it's actually even more devastating because they're actually, even after being hit with the plate vest on, like at the literal fraction of a second where that bullet hits his chest, he's still alive. And he could still survive depending on where the spalling goes, what direction it takes. If it goes down and it hits him in the leg, he survives. If maybe it goes over his shoulder, it doesn't graze his neck. So there's almost like an infinite number of outcomes or permutations that the trajectory could have taken. And so that to me, when I found that out, I was even more upset because in an alternate universe, in a different multiverse, he could still be alive. And like I said, that's something that hasn't been confirmed yet, but it actually, and this is not just like, some random nut job posted a thread on Twitter and I'm going with it. Like, it's to me, the evidence is clear. Moving along, I kind of just did my Hassan Piker go off, but this actually includes another topic that I wanted to get into, so I write that I'm glad to see liberals facing real-life consequences for their celebrating of Charlie Kirk's murder. It seems to be happening en masse, like I mentioned before. Every time I refresh that feed, 50 new libtards fired. It's real, it's happening, it's incredible. Get your local libtard fired today. If you know someone, if you see something, say something, send that email, make that phone call. It is your duty. This is your Patreon. This isn't a joke, by the way. I'm not memeing. This is it. Like, this is our moment. This is our time to shine. It seems to be happening en masse, and it's incredible to witness, as this is not something that has ever happened before. But I think we should also use this moment to make an example out of someone who really deserves it most. And here, I go on to write about Hassan Piker. I say, why was Hassan allowed to post the following image? This is the how to build a homemade gun image he posted in response to Tom Cotton, and he got away with this somehow. He still has a livelihood on Twitch. He still has sponsors. He's still invited to speak at live events. He was actually scheduled to debate Charlie Kirk in just 2 weeks from now. Why? Who invited him? I assume this is a conservative debate organization. Why did you invite Hassan? Why would you, why? Why would you do that? He threatened to kill, murder Republicans, conservatives, you who are writing him a check to come to your event. Don't do that. Stop doing that. They wouldn't do that. They would say, we don't want a platform. Okay, then why are you platforming then? Let me see if I can find this video compilation. Greatest hits. Hassan Piker calling for the mass slaughter of conservatives. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. Okay, here we go. Hassan Piker. Twitch streamer. To this very moment. Here we go. I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. Bruh. Like, what is the question here? What are we doing? What are we doing? Why isn't there's not one person in an authority position that can end this right now? How is this allowed to persist? And then think about all the times over the last 10, 20 years you got banned for the lamest shit. There's more than, there's only 2 genders, right? Think about how many times, that was hate speech. When you said there's only 2 genders, that was hate speech. Hassan Piker thinks that is hate speech. And everybody in Hassan's audience, that is hate speech. We are the hateful ones. Charlie Kirk is the one who is spewing hateful rhetoric when he says there are only 2 genders. And abortions are bad. But when Hassan Piker here says we need to be gutting them, what is going on here? How is this allowed still right now? In the wake of what just happened? I mean, this guy, he needs to be deplatformed. Not because we disagree with him. Not because we disagree. We do disagree. That's not the reason why. It's because you are straight up. Just straight up. With no ambiguity. telling your audience to gut people. You know, I would really, right now, I know people are posting about it. You know, part of me, I wonder, you know, Nick did call us on the other day, that's great. Part of me wonders, like if Nick made a comment about it, like if Nick was like, you know, why the hell is this guy still out on Twitch? And then maybe that'll get picked up by the media, and then maybe, you know, one thing leads to it. This to me is something that needs to be addressed right now. Right now. This is insane. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up? Bro, this is the first time I'm watching this clip. It's 100 times worse than I thought. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck, man? Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is right? You cannot have a bigger fucking layup. You could not have had a bigger fucking layup than a horrible candidate like Herschel Walker. And by the way, the entire chat, knife emojis in the chat. A breeding ground. Breeding ground. That's the word that I wanted to use like 30 minutes ago. Twitch, Reddit, breeding grounds for this. Sure, he was prepared very well. And Herschel Walker actually had a good,
thing we do need to make sure we do. We got to keep attracting younger viewers.
This is the CEO for those who don't know.
You know, grow up on TikTok, you know, when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even though they shouldn't be.
It's like, oh, here, now this guy's down, he's dead. These guys are like fatally wounded. This guy, for those who don't know, not Destiny, but on the other side of your screen from me, opposite of me, his name is Mike from PA. Total F-slur on YouTube. He's actually one of the accounts that is most aggressively pushing this fan fiction, this ridiculous tall tale that the shooter was a groiper. He's all over that. They're not even running. They're not even like cowering and running away and screaming in fear. They're like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy done? Oh, shit. Well, okay. Well, we got the called shock, you fucking idiot. It's called shock. Anything that happens, I mean, like, holy shit, guys. If you live in Florida, I have an opportunity for you. If you want to earn $100,000, let me know. I mean, that's not funny. What's funny is how brazen it is and how absurd it is that, like, this is what they can say. I was banned from Twitch 10 years ago now at this point, a long time ago. You know, I was never going to be XQC. I was never going to be, you know, Soda Pop or whoever. But could have had a very, very different trajectory with my stream if I didn't get banned by these fuckers. By these fuckers. And I will never forgive them for that. Among many other things, of course. But I can tell you I was not calling for anybody to be killed. I was not putting out contracts on political enemies. Jesus fucking Christ. Flags, we can put that over the bleeding part. Like somebody got shot in that flag. And then this guy,
874 Bellevue Drive, and I'm gonna kill you with my AR-15. Like that's the type of messages they were leaving in this dude's office, and he's resigning. Like he's literally, this is his last term. So I think that people
sounds like he's slurring, no?
Are a lot more radical. It's hurt.
I didn't get that clip. Who was he talking about? What was the address? Context, please.
Poor people that they can afford housing in Berkeley. I don't know how that works.
Well, my understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
He says from his mansion. He says from his $2 million, $3 million mansion. This is just that clip I've seen before. So as you can see, there's it's not that it would be okay if it was a one-off. It's not a one-off. Destiny, there's clips of him calling for the murder of conservatives. Mike from PA, he's another, you know, relatively large political. This is what they allow. And Republicans, this is the shit they're saying and doing, and Republicans are still pussyfooting. Come on, man. If not now, when? That's all I can say. Okay, so now at this point, this was after the suspect was taken into custody, identified. You know, prior to this, the collective left. They were celebrating. They were dancing and spinning on Charlie Kirk's grave. It was one of the happiest moments of their life. You know, obviously, this shows us how they would react if the same happened to any of us, which is why we need to put ourselves in a position where that can never happen. But at this point, I wrote, weird. We've now entered the phase where all the people celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder deny responsibility for it because the shooter wore a goofy Trump costume 10 years ago. I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming, and I honestly did not see that coming. That to me is completely retarded. And that was their evidence. Well, first their evidence was that he was a registered Republican and donated to Trump, but then it turns out that was actually not the right person. So basically, every single piece of evidence that they've put forward so far has either been wrong, or wrong disproven, or has been invented out of whole cloth. Because the shooter was not Republican. So you're not going to see any evidence that suggests anything else because the shooter was a Republican. So that evidence doesn't exist. You're not going to see it. I did see there was one said individual who was in my chat before who lies about literally everything ever. It's what that person does for a living. And they were still, even though I just broke the news that turns out that the shooter was a T-slur lover, was actually living with their T-slur boyfriend. So, yeah, just further confirmation of what we already knew from the second the shot rang out. Here we have somebody, this is, I guess, a Nick C there. Well, here's, let's read Ralph's take, actually. So, Ralph, he writes, Fuentes nailed it tonight. He took the occasion of Kirk's murder to memorialize him, acknowledge that they didn't see eye to eye, all while giving a rousing call to be better angels of our nature. It has the potential to be a really important inflection point in his career. That's a spot-on take. There's really nothing debatable about that. Okay? just a very, very coherent, accurate description of Nick's stream. And then here we have Cedar. They say, Fuentes is an opportunist snake vying for Charlie's position and influence, which he will never have due to his rotten, treacherous personality. He spent I kind of asked and answered all this already, so I'm not going to repeat myself here. What I will say is, you know, some people are saying, oh, Nick will never have the influence that Charlie had. It's like, he like does, or he almost does, and that's with headwinds that Charlie never experienced, and that is not at all to put down Charlie Kirk's his work, his life's work, not at, because he still needs to be extremely talented to do what he do and achieve what he achieved, and a hard worker and all that. So not at all a discount of Kirk's work. But that being said, you know, Charlie, Nick is facing a lot of headwinds that few others will ever, you know, find themselves in that position. And despite all that, you know, Nick is pulling close to 200,000 viewers, you know, just a night or two ago. So when people say, oh, Nick will never be successful, it's like, what? That kind of, like, happened? It's happening? I don't know. Oh, this is pretty cool. So, Matt Walsh. Now, see, now I can speak positively. Now I can say good things about Matt. Previously, I'd have to pussyfoot a little bit. Now, Matt Walsh. Can we get some O/slashes in the chat for our guy, Matt Walsh? So here we have, this is a professional liar. I assume they're on the payroll. You know, one thing that I'll say about all of the lying that I've seen, some people, they see that stuff, they get worked up. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, I'm worked up by things. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the textbook image of stoicism. But like a lot of this stuff that they're putting out there, it's so ridiculous that it doesn't even bother me. It's just like, oh, that's dumb, that's stupid, whatever. You know, because the truth is already out. If it's ambiguous at all, it will be ambiguous in no way in like a day or two. So to me, the fact that they're spreading all these lies doesn't really bother me, because it's just like, well, you look retarded now, you're going to look even more retarded in a minute from now. And all you're doing is like justifying everything that we need to do to make sure people like you are no longer in a position where you can continue getting away with this. Which has to be the end goal here. Like, we need to be living in a society where someone like Adam Cochran, what's his name? Where someone like this, like, isn't allowed to even have a Twitter account because they're knowingly spreading malicious lies with the intent to deceive, with the intent to manipulate. And the thing is, you might say, like, oh, well, that's just free speech, RPG. Well, I think that when you are like, knowingly spreading lies because you're trying to evoke, like, look at what this leads to. Look at what this actually leads to, right? Like, not like when the left pretended, like, oh, well, when Charlie Kirk says he's against abortion, that leads to this. That leads to rape. No, it doesn't. But this actually leads to, like, political violence, because what you're doing is because there's some number of people who are going to believe the lies. There always is. That's why liars do what they do, because there's always, always X amount of people in a crowd that are going to believe anything. So they put these lies out there. He's being rewarded for it. He's getting likes. He's getting retweets. He's getting paid. You know, people engage with his tweets. He's getting paid for that. So he's actually profiting off of this, both professionally, financially, etc. And what is the end result? The end result is political violence. Why? Because you are knowingly spreading lies. So, you know, a good example of this, a better example of this is there's this account, Anonymous. Like, it's just a guy who's pretending he's anonymous. For some reason, people treat this person like they're the anonymous from back in the day. Like, once again, I was saying how people are stupid. This is a good example of that. People think like this random guy who calls himself anonymous is anonymous, even though actually he's been doxxed, so his identity is known, so he's not anonymous. And he posted yesterday, it was an altered image of the shooter wearing a Trump shirt. And, you know, like, he was called out by everybody in the replies. And then what he did after he was called out for posting a fake image was, in a reply to the OP, he corrected it. That's not good enough. That's not, because now we know for certain that you are knowingly spreading lies. You know, this guy, he can at least pretend, like in a court of law, he can at least pretend that, oh, no, I thought this was truthful. But in Anonymous's case, in the example I just laid out, you are knowingly lying because you've been provided with the truth. You know the truth. We know you know the truth. You posted the truth, yet you allowed the lie to stand. Why is this allowed? Why is that not a bannable offense on Twitter, or at least a temporary suspension? Why not? I think knowing lies that lead to violence, probably, you know, that lead to discord, lead to violence, probably that should be against the rules. Probably that should be against the law. Why? Tell me why not. Tell me why that type of free speech is necessary. Can anybody give me a good reason for that? Why should it be legal to knowingly spread a lie that leads to death? And that's what happens. And maybe a week ago if I said that, you could call it hyperbole. And you could say, oh, RPG, you're just pearl clutching and being dramatic. Well, as of today, as of September 13th, that's the reality that we are now facing. Anyway, getting back to this post from Adam Cochran, he writes, individuals like Fuentes have called Charlie Kirk a liberal in disguise, a globalist, a fascist. So we're gonna focus on that. That never happened. I don't know about I might have called him a fake conservative, I'm sure. A globalist, probably. What he's trying to do is he's trying to tie the shooter to Nick, because on one of the bullet casings, the shooter, the murderer, engraved, catch this, fascist. And Adam Cochran is lying and claiming that Nick called Charlie Kirk a fascist, therefore the shooter could be a groiper, or is a groiper, because Nick, well, I think it's obvious, right? So, Matt Walsh, of all people, somebody who, you know, who has a similar relationship with the relationship that Kirk had with Nick, he quote tweets this and writes, these idiots are so desperate. Fuentes has never called Charlie a fascist, you dumbass. And nobody on the right has ever called anybody else on the right a fascist. The only people on the right who never said that are boomers who say that about Democrats and say they're the real fascists. Like Piers Morgan the other day, who he said essentially that. He was calling the leftists celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. He said they were the real fascists. I tried to correct him. I said, no, Piers, they are not fascists. They are left-wing communists. By the way, we got to bring that back. Like, we need to start calling people communists. We have to do that. I know there's like this weird thing where, for some reason, it doesn't have that same punch. I think, honestly, like pop culture has a lot to do with that. You know, because I feel like pop culture made using Nazi as a pejorative made it cool. Like, think about a movie like Inglourious Bastards, right? Where it's all about killing those Nazis, right? And you know, all the Redditors, they all quote Inglourious Bastards all the time, like, only good Nazis and good dead Nazi, right? And all of our popular culture, not just the pop culture, but a lot, basically, like, anti-fascism, anti-Nazism has been made cool in pop culture. And to the point where subconsciously, if you are right-wing and you call these people what they are, which is communists, that's considered like uncool. It's like corny when we call them why is that? So how come when they call us Nazis, it's like, yeah, like you just called that Nazi a Nazi. Good shit, comrade. But then how come when we call them communists, which is what they are, actually, like we're not Nazis, but they actually are communists, how come when we say that, it's like, oh, that was cringe, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a genuine question, because I actually don't know the answer to. I think my theory is that it's rooted in pop culture, and pop culture is so deeply ingrained in all of us that, like, for example, you have a lot of white racists who talk like black people, for example. You know, which is something that really drives me insane. I won't do that rant, don't worry, but really, really drives me insane how you have these people who, you know, they're rightfully, they are anti-black culture, as any, like, sane, civilized person should be. But the point I'm making here is that the pop culture, you know, rap, hip-hop, the pop culture is so pervasive, it's so, like, omnipresent, ubiquitous, that even white people who consider themselves racist will actually emulate and ape, not to be racist, funnily enough, but they'll actually ape the language of black people, because even though they oppose the culture, the pop culture is just that, it just kind of penetrates, if you get what I'm saying. And I feel like that same phenomenon describes what is happening here when it comes to, you know, them calling us Nazis versus us calling them communists or commies. Like, that is what they are. And communists are loathsome, and they are detestable, and they are despicable, and they should be spit on. And, you know, how come you could say the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi? How come I can't say, I'm not even going to try to say the communist version of that? How come we can't say that? You see what I'm saying? Because of pop culture. Because one has been, what is the word? Permitted. Not the word I'm looking for, but one has sort of been, I'll go with permitted. By pop culture, one hasn't been. So, anyway, the point of this post by Matt Walsh is, whoa, big surprise here. Matt Walsh is sticking his neck out for Nick. You know, so this is Matt Walsh extending the olive branch to Nick, to Groypers. Previously, they've had a pretty contentious relationship. Kind of, you know, it's kind of very similar to the Kirk and Nick dynamic. You know, kind of one-sided. You know, Charlie's made comments, Matt has made comments, but really not like, you know, that's because Charlie Kirk was, you know, Nick is punching up, right? Nick is punching up when he goes after these people, so of course Nick is going to be more aggressive to get that attention, to provoke him, to, you know, get ultimately what he wants. You know, for Charlie Kirk, for Matt Walsh, it didn't make as much sense for them to give Nick that attention because, you know, they feel like they're high up on their perch, and why give attention to this person, my competition, someone who's, you know, a competitor politically, and also they both have, you know, so there's a number of factors at play here. Also, another thing that makes it dicey for Matt Walsh is the fact that his boss is Ben Shapiro. You know, Nick and Ben Shapiro, I would say their relationship is, you know, definitely contentious. That's probably one of his more intense rivalries, if you would call it a rivalry or just adversary. Probably a better word, adversary. Not even a rivalry, really. Ben Shapiro is pretty high up there. Might be number one even. So Matt's in a tough position because, hold on a second. Yeah, Matt's in a tough position because Ben Shapiro is his boss, and, you know, Groypers are always in his replies pointing that out. You know, which puts Matt in a tough position because I'm sure him and Ben are friends, and I'm sure he feels indebted to Ben in many ways. He knows him personally. Probably feels like Ben is responsible for a great deal of his success, if not all of it. You know, so I understand the predicament that Matt is in. I also understand the position of the Groypers, you know, putting that pressure on him to force him or to persuade him to our side. You know, so it's a delicate dance. But anyway, Matt Walsh, he posted, in defense of Nick, he says that this makes no sense. To suggest that the shooter was a fascist, and therefore a Groyper, this makes no sense. Then you see a lot of Groypers in the replies. Thank you, Charlie. Here you have some Seethers in the replies as well. So it seems like now I can, at least for the time being, I can say nice things about Matt Walsh on stream and not get too much pushback for that. Oh, Asmongold, watch these videos. I said it before, I will say it again. Watch these videos. His 2 latest uploads, Asmongold in unseen form, okay? Just phenomenal. You know, these videos are so, it's pretty rare these days where you put on a YouTube video and you're just kind of like, you're just locked in from the first second to the last. These videos, you're just going to be so locked in. You're going to be so, it's so good. It's so good. He makes so many good points. You know, he's clearly reached his breaking point. This is somebody, you know, yet another example of somebody that used to be a normie, used to be even kind of libtarded, and just like so many others that were formerly on the left, they chased him off. He wasn't woke enough or whatever. You know, he failed the purity test, the purity spiral, and now he sounds like he is Hitler Youth in training. Maybe not that far, but really, really, really good stuff. And I don't normally watch them, okay? If you haven't seen them already, watch them. Just really good content. Really good content. I've been seeing a lot of this teachers and healthcare professionals and lawyers, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. All these people that they surround us, they are among us. We see them in our day-to-day lives. Our lives are in these people's hands. We are at their mercy in so many different scenarios that we face. And turns out that a lot of these people want us to die, and it isn't a joke. And you guys have seen it. I don't need to show you all the examples. You've been looking at it yourself for days, okay? These people, they want us dead. Not only do they want us dead, but as I write here, it's horrifying to see. Well, so this is just one example I'll show you guys. This is from Jeff Martin is wrong about everything Groiper. It's a pretty good username, I have to say. Helen Ignacio George, whatever, is an interesting name. Seems a little fucked that one of the board of directors at Luke's house, a healthcare clinic in New Orleans, would be posting this immediately after a commentator was murdered. The Hippocratic Oath is something we all take seriously, and I've been seeing this, like I said, every time I refresh that feed, there's 50 libtards fired, there's 100 libtards doxxed, and look, here's the thing about that. Some people might say, oh, is RPG about to, look, if you are calling for murder, I never did that, okay? I never did that. I never called for violence. I never called for murder. I never called for anything illegal. I never would do that. That's not the person I am, and that's that. Okay, now if I did do those things, then a lot of what people did to me would actually make sense. But I didn't do any of those things. We won't go down that track again. Now, here is somebody that is celebrating not only the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and this will sound corny to some, but in a way, all of us are Charlie Kirk. Obviously, they view us exactly the same way that they view Charlie Kirk. And if they think that Charlie Kirk was a fascist, then God knows how they would describe you and me. So this guy, healthcare professional, this is a refrain I've probably seen 100,000 times by now. They're saying, oh, well, Charlie Kirk lived by the sword, so he deserves to die by the sword. He lived by the sword in what? How? What was the sword? He debated liberals on college campuses. That's living by the sword. Yeah, they just are totally missing the mark on that one. It makes no sense whatsoever. Pretty sure Charlie Kirk never assassinated anybody. Maybe, did he actually? Did anybody? Maybe I shouldn't joke like that right now. But regardless, here we have many left. A lot of them are just they're doing this openly. They're doing this with their names, their full legal name, or like this guy, Hig. Like this guy has clearly an abbreviated version of his name, his initials. So you have people with either they're just straight up using their full identity, or they have identifying details in their usernames, in their profiles, their bios, and they're just openly joking about it, laughing about it. This guy is what is he? He works in healthcare. Secretary. He's got to go. He's got to go, because what if I come in, and what if I'm wearing think about this, what if I head to, whatever, urgent care, hospital, emergency room, whatever, and I'm wearing a Charlie Kirk shirt? What if I'm wearing a shirt that says freedom? What if I'm wearing a shirt with the American flag on it? Or like this hat? What if I'm wearing his hat? And I walk into, and I get, I get, God forbid, I get carted to the emergency room, and this is the guy who's responsible for whether I live or die. Maybe he's like, you know what, this guy's probably a Nazi. Does this sound ridiculous to you? Does this sound like a scenario that couldn't happen? Based on their reaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who they all saw as Hitler Jr.? This is real shit. This is real shit. We're seeing it right now, before our eyes in real time. And in response, I said it's horrifying to see how many leftists not only work in healthcare, but are stupid enough to openly advocate for murder. These are the people our lives depend on, and our lives do not only our survival, but even just day-to-day life. These are your superiors at work. This is your manager. These are the people who are brainwashing your children. You send them off to school. These are the people. You go to the DMV. You go just wherever. Wherever you go. You need service somewhere. They see you have a freedom hat shirt on. We'll take our time getting to him. We'll take our time. Oops, we lost whatever. We lost your form. We lost up. Whoops, silly mistake I made. Clearly, that's what's going on. Clearly. Oh, this was another post that people seemed to like. Yeah, so speaking of Mike from PA, one of his utterly ridiculous and retarded posts he made about the shooter being a groiper was, so apparently one of Nick's hundreds of thousands of followers, their name is Chow Bella Groiper, and the shooter, one of the messages that he had engraved on one of the bullets was actually, it's an Antifa, not originally, but it's become an Antifa anthem. Chow Bella, it's like some stupid chants that they do. And one of Nick's hundreds of thousands of followers just so happens that their name is like Chow Bella Groiper. So I posted here, sarcastically, the strongest evidence I've seen so far that the shooter's a groiper is one of his hundreds of thousands of followers is named, I actually got it wrong in the post like an idiot. I should have double checked, but I was like, it's either Chow Bella or Bella Chow. And of course, in actual RPG fashion, I got it wrong. And then I said, it's unlikely that Nick can come back from this. By the way, if you're not following on X, at RPG on X, give me a follow. I have been going off. I have been going off on X. I plan on going off. I still got that fire in me. I'm trying to post a link in Kick Chat, and it's not letting me. What's going on there? Let's try that again. Okay, just can't do it for some reason. I can't use my own Kick Chat. Well, if anybody else wants to post that. Or it's just at RPG on X. It's pretty simple to figure out. Maya says, how many of those healthcare workers might have killed their patients during COVID, thinking they were vax deniers? Absolutely, 100%. 100%. 100% that was going on. Think about it. If you went in there and you didn't want the vax, or you weren't wearing a mask, or whatever, they were gonna do some shit. Here, Charlie Kirk, beautiful family, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. And this, really, like I said, I was really, really affected by this news when it broke. And, I know sometimes shit happens in life and you feel very passionate. You feel like there's been a siege, and there has been, and there will be. But honestly, I really, really do feel like in some ways this has had a positive. Initially, it was devastating. It was horrific. I'm not saying that it's a good thing that happened but what I will say, silver lining or unexpected, I don't know the words to use without making it sound disrespectful. But what I will say is, in some way, it had a positive impact on me. It just really sort of reoriented my mind a little bit, and it kind of made me realize like what. Not that my priorities were wrong or they were off or anything like that, but in particular, when it comes to starting a family, that's something that I was always going to do. Like, it's not like I wasn't going to do that until this happened, and now I'm going to do it. Like, that's something that was always going to happen, regardless, because I feel like that's the reason why I'm alive. So I want to do that. But my last relationship, I'm not going to get into super personal details here, but my last relationship, it almost felt like a marriage and a divorce. Mentally, that was the mental. I wasn't married, but mentally, the toll that it took on me, it felt like a marriage. And then when it ended, it felt like a divorce. And I think after you go through an experience like that, you feel, I think most people could relate to this. Maybe women. Women are different. Women, they just hop right back on the wagon. They just, hop right back on the fuck train. A lot of them, not all, many do that. Pretty blackpilling. But, and I'm not saying this is what my personal, that's not a reference to my personal situation, but many do that, as you all know. But anyway, after going through an experience like that, it really just takes a toll on you mentally. And I just felt checked out, and I was like, you know what, I'll get to it eventually. And for the last 2 years or so, my work has been my top priority. That's just my life every single day, 7 days a week, my work. Because I kind of felt like I have to sort of build I have to build that foundation first. I have to have that solid foundation first. And now I feel like I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I have the foundation down. And then this happened. And, previously, prior to this, mentally I felt like, oh, I'll get to that eventually. Now I feel like I got to get the ball rolling. This is something that I got to get the ball rolling on because, I look at this and I look at what Charlie left behind, and that's what I want to leave behind. That was my takeaway from this. It's sad, of course, that he's gone. It's devastating, but I see what he left behind, and that's what it's all about. Yo, Johnny Bad, so true, man. I appreciate the kind words, and so true. He says, "Trust God's plan, RPG. Our time will come." Amen, amen. I believe it. But for a very, very long time, I was just in a place where I couldn't even muster the energy to do any of that. Just the thought of dating was like, it still kind of is, honestly. I gotta go through that shit again. Eventually you reach a point in your life, or at least I did. When you're young, it's fun. Oh, you go on a date, and it's like, wow, we went bowling, or But then eventually you get to a point where you've done it. Not that I've done it a billion times, but you've done it so many times that you're just like, oh my fucking god. Can we just skip to the part where are we getting married or not? Are we getting married? No, okay, goodbye. Of course, there needs to be that initial period, but it's just like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Because I've done it already. I did it already. Anyway. The point I'm getting at here is, Charlie Kirk, I think, set a great example for us. This is what we should all aspire to be. We should all aspire to be this. Read first game says, my now wife told me, date number 2, if this isn't leading to marriage, don't waste my time. That is 1,000. That's another thing. So, when you're younger, and there's people out there who might be younger who might be listening to this and, probably won't listen to this advice, but if you're in your 20s or something, if I could give you, and it's easier for me to, you know what it is about when older people give you advice, is they've done it, so it's easy for them to give advice, because they did it, they got it out of their system, and it's I don't want to do that anymore, so now I can tell you, this is, here's what I'm getting at. So the advice that I would give to younger people, let's say you want this, right? You want what Charlie has in his picture here. What I would say to you is, don't waste time with people that it isn't going anywhere with. There were, honestly, the majority of women that I dated, I knew very early on. There's only a small handful of women that I felt differently about. The majority of women that I dated, I felt very early, you could even say maybe first 2 dates. I felt very, very early on that, this was not going the distance. And looking back, what I should have done is I should have cut the cord a lot quicker than I did. But you're young and you're having fun and you're not thinking about the future. When you're 21, you're 25, especially these days, you're not thinking about the future. You're thinking about having fun. So, there was a lot of time wasted on people that it shouldn't have been wasted on. But I was just young and, having a good time. And now that I'm, now that I'm dying, now that I'm 35, now I look back and I'm like, fuck. I'm not happy to be in this position. I'm not happy to be 35 and not married and 0 children. The parents are getting older. That's a consideration. I want my parents to be able to enjoy my kids. And, you know, so it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. But that, you know, but that's life. And I guess if it ever happens, I'll be blessed that it happened at any point in time. But the advice that I'm imparting on the young ones out there, if there are some young people out there, you know, if you're more serious about it than I was back then, and this is what you want the Charlie Kirk family, the picture perfect family, then, you know, he dated a girl. I would say after 3 dates, if you're not feeling it, just move on to the next one. Because you know what it is? You're young and you think you have all the time in the world. You think you're gonna, I got plenty of time. Oh, I'm only 21. Oh, I'm only 25. Oh, I'm only 29. Oh, I'm not even 30 yet. Oh, now I'm 30, but I'm low 30s, early 30s. And then eventually, you're 35 years old and you're like, fuck, I should have. And time only speeds up, Kirk says. Yep. So, you know, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. Like Johnny said, God's plan. I believe it. But, you know, it's one of the areas of my life where I'm not where I want to be currently. Professionally, I'm happy with that. You know, I got that figured out, and that's good. That's important. That's very important. You know, because one leads to the other. Women, they need security. They want to be with, they want to be with like a multi-billionaire like me. Not actually though, but you know, you gotta have your affairs in order before the ladies are super interested. Not that I didn't, but like things are better now. Weed First says it's not too late, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I know, but at the same time, like, I feel like once you're 35, you feel like you're 100. Like, I feel, it's weird. I feel like and I'm only 35, like, I feel like I've lived 3 to 5 different lifetimes already. Joey B says, real sad posting hours. No, we're not being sad. We're not being sad. We're not being sad. This is the, we're having an intimate discussion about life and all, you know, because we're talking about Charlie Kirk and the example that he set for us. And I've really been thinking about it. So, we'll move on. But that's my advice to people out there. Oh, this was funny. So, I was out and about yesterday. There was, for some reason, CNN is always on the television, as you guys know all too well. And I saw on, what is it called? The Chiron? Is it called the Chiron? The Chiron? The Chiron? It's another one of those 50-50 situations. Bella Chow, Chow Bella. Well, on the television screen, the graphic said, it said something like, high school friend of shooter says that he was big into gaming. Which I'm pretty sure that's a reference to the Guardian article. For those who aren't familiar with the Guardian article, that was, it was already known that he was right-wing, that he was left-wing at that point, but the Guardian article really solidified it because in that article they interviewed a high school friend who said that he was like super leftist. And yeah, so I thought it was, typical mainstream media, spewing their bullshit, spewing their lies. Another big part of the problem. That's another thing. I want to see Trump. Well, he's not going to do it, but our next leader. By the way, J.D. Vance, he doesn't have the stomach for what's needed next. He doesn't have the stomach. He's not going to be the guy. We really do need like a non-violent Hitler 2.0. I'm not joking when I say that. Non-violent Hitler 2.0. We need somebody who's going to just outlaw CNN. Just CNN is against the law. Like, just like write the law. It literally just says like CNN is illegal now. Because here they are talking about how the shooter was big into gaming. Maybe they're saving the portion. Maybe they're saving the quote where the friend said that he was a huge leftist. Maybe they're saving that for the next segment, perhaps. Like, was that really the key takeaway from that article? Actually, I think it was CNN. They were the ones who, early on, before the shooter was identified and before the FBI report came out and all that, or after, right after, well, the timeline's fuzzy. The last 3 days have been a total whirlwind. But I think it was CNN. They were the ones who said that, like, the bullets had cultural phrases on them. Catch this fascist is a cultural phase. And what was the other one? Like, it was something very strange about bulges. People are sick, though. They're sick. They're irony poison. They spend way too much. Like, they're connected to the internet. They spend way too much time online. They think it's real life. Like, it's fine to spend time online, but you should also have a life offline as well. People like this only have an online life. So they do things like this. Like I said, they do it for updates. He thinks he's going to get updates IRL. He thinks he's going to get emoji reactions like he gets on Discord. He's going to get them IRL if he does this shit. These people, they're heavily medicated. Propaganda, medication, nihilism at an all-time high, godlessness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You throw that into a blender. You mix it all up. Hey, Lisa! Lisa, what's going on there? She says, I was surprised he was only 31. He acted and presented older. I was really surprised. When I said 31, I was like, what? Damn, I wouldn't even say, like, I get what you're saying. He looks older than 31, but he doesn't look old. It's not that he looked old. He looked, like, more mature, I think that's even what you're getting at. It's not that he looked older necessarily. It's that he just seemed older. He seemed older. Not that he looked older. Yeah, I was really surprised. Josh, what is up, says, sure, but the early 20s girls will be much more likely to follow you, man. Plus, they're usually hotter. Yeah, but especially these days, girls aren't. It depends. If you get lucky and you meet your high school sweetheart, that's like not 1% of the population even. So I agree with you. If you meet your high school sweetheart, sure. But the reality is, especially we're talking about propaganda, Netflix, pop culture. Girls these days, they watch these Netflix shows. It's all about living my best life. What does that mean? Infinite sex. Like, so the problem is, and it's not all women, but a lot of women these days, like they need to get that, they need to have that whore face first, because it's like you haven't lived until you've whored yourself out. That's like the, you know, that is the popular belief. You know, if you just go straight to marriage, then you haven't lived your best life. You need to live your best life. And what does that mean? Like, what is a woman referring to when she says her best life? What does that mean? What if it's not a reference to sex, copious amounts of sex? What is it a reference to? Seriously, live my best life. That just means have lots, and that's the culture. And that, sadly, that is just what is being pumped into their minds. And, you know, until Hitler 2.0 comes along, you're fighting an uphill battle there. You are. You know, women these days, I don't know. So yeah, the young ones, yeah, sure. Are they hotter? Yeah, sure. I mean, but also I'm at the point too where, like, you know, that's something that's a lot more important when you're young. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, of course, physical attraction, sexual attraction, obviously that's important. Like, you need to have that in order for a relationship to go the distance. Not only the mental, but the physical. Although what's interesting is that the mental. Oh, this isn't a big surprise, but the mental has a lot to do with the physical. And if you really connect with somebody mentally, then that increases your attraction for them. Which is really why the mental is the most important thing. That is because if you have the physical but not the mental, you don't have anything. You just have like a sex doll. That's it. You have a sex doll. And it's like, well, why do I need that? So when you're young, physical appearance is very important to you. Actually, you know, there's this show on Netflix, and people are gonna make fun of me for saying this is a good show. You know, I like shows like this. Call me gay or whatever. It's called Better Late Than Single. It's like this Korean dating show. Like, it's Korean. And basically the premise of the show is like they find like the most like socially awkward like men and women. And like the premise of the show is that none of them have ever been in a relationship before. And there's a bit of a spoiler alert here, so, you know, if you plan on watching it, don't listen to the next 30 seconds. But one of the participants in the show, like about halfway through the season, his top girl, like the one that he's got his eyes set on, is like the most attractive one there, or the one that he finds the most attractive. But then at some point, like towards the end, they're sort of this dark horse. Like one of the women is like this dark horse. And you never see it coming. And throughout the whole season, they're friendly with each other. Like they're actually like, so every time this guy goes on a date with the hot chick, afterwards he's having like a post-date discussion with this one girl, this other girl who's maybe less attractive. And they're you know, but they're friends. They're friends with each other. They confide in each other. They give each other advice and the pep talk. And then by the end of the season, what this person realizes is the one that he was maybe more physically attracted to. Like, he realizes, and it was actually pretty cool to see, because this is somebody with no relationship experience. So it's actually quite mature of him to realize that even though this is the one who may be the prettiest girl here, this is not the one that I feel that connection with. And then, you know, by the end of it, he actually ends up going with the other girl, because he realizes, even though he had his eyes set on the hotter one, he was actually in love with this other person all along. So it's a very pleasant story and a very, you know, very pleasant outcome. But all of that is to say that when you're young, physical attraction, that's maybe the highest priority, one of the higher priorities for sure. As you get older, don't get me wrong, always important. Always important. That's got to be there. But the most important thing, that's another thing. Advice, okay? You know, there might be some people out there who are in relationships right now. You know, girlfriend, right? And maybe she's hot. Good, you know, good work, man. You know, maybe you got yourself a hottie, you got yourself a baddie. Good work, man. But if you're aiming for this, okay? And you should be aiming for this. If this is the end game, and she's a hottie, and maybe you guys have, you know, you guys have a good time when the sun goes down. But if you don't really vibe. Maybe you like her, but you don't really vibe all the way. You don't really have that 100% coupling connection. Then you gotta, you know, it's not the one, man. It's not the one. A lot of people make that mistake. A lot of people make that mistake. You know, a lot of people, they make a big mistake. They make a really big mistake. And whoa, she's a smoke show. And they use protection. And now you got a problem on your hands. You got a problem that never goes away. And I don't mean that in a way where, you know, all life is sacred, of course, but it feels a little less sacred when things go south with that person. When things go south with that person, you know, maybe she was hot before, but now you hate her guts, and you have a kid. You hate her guts and you have a kid, and you have to, that ruins the rest of your life. That ruins the rest of your life. Your life will, you know, I hate to, if there's people out there dealing with it, your life will suck forever if that happens to you, which is why you need to be very, very, very cautious. That's actually, you know, like the people who hate me, like one thing they'll make fun of me for, always single, you know, like I could be married right now. Like, getting married isn't the hard part. And I posted recently on Netflix or something like this. Getting married is not the hard part. Having children, that's not the hard part. That's super duper easy. You can go to a bar tonight and have a child. That's not the hard part. The hard part is getting married and, like, being happy 20 years after the fact. What's hard is getting married, having kids, and being happy and knowing you did the right thing 20 years after the fact. Like, going the distance and then looking back and saying, I have no regrets. You know, a lot of people, they do live their life with regrets. A lot of people who are living their life with regrets talk shit about me. And at that point, it's like a crabs in a bucket mentality, where the people who actually do regret the decisions that they made talk shit on me because I don't share that misery, because I'm not in the bucket with them. And so they'll say, oh, but you're 35 and single. I would rather be 35 and single than 35 and divorced with kids. Like, between those two options, of course, The best option would be 35 married children. But, and the numbers are not in your favor. That's another thing. I do not want to be a statistic. Like, I feel like that is basically the only way that I would feel like I failed in life is if I became a statistic. Then I would just feel like I fucked up. I had one chance. Oh, Lisa says, do they speak English? They don't speak English, but the show does have an English dub. Yeah, so if you have Netflix, watch it. It's good. It's really good. Thomas says this topic is max depressing. Well, it's not meant to be depressing, actually. It might sound depressing. It's actually not meant to be depressing. It's meant to guide people in the right direction and to make absolutely certain, like, these are the most important decisions that you will ever make in your life. So make the right decision. That's the point I'm trying to get across. You will never make a more important decision. It's kind of depressing? Oh, okay. Well, hold on. So, all right. If latest, my bad. My bad. Some people are saying it's depressing. I wasn't meaning for it to be depressing. I apologize. We'll continue with the content here. But I've been thinking about this stuff a lot. That was the point of it all. Josh says the truth can be depressing. He does have a point there, but the point isn't to depress, so I apologize. I'm not trying to be, I didn't feel like I was being a downer. But I will proceed with the content. And, to those who haven't, to those of us who are still with us in this mortal plane, if you want to support the stream, this is the best time to plug it, right? allmylinks.com/RPGTV. Send your donations. I mean, look, sounds like you guys are about to, jump out a window, so if you want to send a super chat before you do that, that'd be appreciated. Latest Greatest says, trust God's plan, and that's it. Amen. Johnny Depp says, normies can't handle real human moments, don't apologize. Well, this person, they deserve an apology, so I will apologize. Yes, exactly. Latest says, if you have no heirs, send your money this way, precisely. Okay, let's continue. Oh, this is funny. This is, so of course, like I said, libtards getting fired left and right. It's amazing. The only good libtard is a fired libtard. The only good libtard is a homeless libtard. The only good libtard is an unemployed libtard. A broke and bereft libtard. Mentally broken. So, leftists all over social media, they were saying shit like, oh, Charlie Kirk executed for peacefully talking to another human while conservative. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Right, you guys saw that 10 trillion times. But then I wrote, also leftists, y'all got me fired from my job. It's so sad, too, because, this guy works at Foot Locker. He works at Foot Locker, and, now, he's fucked. And it's like, well, that's what you get for, wanting me to die. And openly wanting me to die. Oh, this is kind of veering into a different direction. It got a lot of attention, though. I will cover it. So, Josh Moon, yesterday, he posted, the entire post is completely retarded, a complete waste of time. I'm not gonna, bore you or waste your, it's just Kiwi, literally, it actually, because of the way it's formatted, it literally looks like he just copy and pasted, maybe it was a post from Kiwi Farms, maybe, a person sent it to him, he thought, this was the kill shot. It's a list of, the most retarded, played out, debunked, anti-Nick talking points. And I'm not gonna waste anybody's time. This isn't, I'm sweeping for Nick. No, it's literally, this guy, he's supposed to be, you would think he knows something about anything. He doesn't know jack shit about anything. He doesn't know anybody's lore at all. He gets every basic fact and detail about everybody wrong. He's in their threads and he still doesn't know the first thing about them. But anyway, he writes last night, this might not be the time, but with Kirk gone, a lot of this young audience will move over to Fuentes. To me, talks of right solidarity can never include Nick Fuentes. Seeing Sam Hyde of all, a 40-year-old man, how old is Josh? Kneel to him disgusts me. Did Sam Hyde kneel to Nick? When did that occur? When they did an interview together? That was kneeling? Nick only cares about himself. Okay, so which so Josh wants to talk about right solidarity. Is this guy even right wing? First of all, is he even right wing? I feel like he LARPs. He wants to be an edgelord, so he LARPs as one. What the fuck is right wing about this guy? Is there anything at all? I mean, you look at his post history. You look at his Blockland post. Doesn't seem to be a lot of right wing talking points going on there. This guy, he's the self-declared chief arbiter of lolcows. Meanwhile, he's an amalgamation of every single lolcow himself. And he wants to talk about right solidarity? Who the fuck are you? Does Josh think he's a thought leader on the right? Where does he even... And Sam Hyde, too, you call Sam Hyde out? A lot of people look up to Nick. A lot of people look up to Sam Hyde. The people that look up to Josh Moon, don't have penises. They used to have penises, but no longer. So, this is just, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to step to Nick like this? Nick, who had 200,000 viewers 2 nights ago? Who do you think you are to step to Sam Hyde like this, who, has millions of followers, millions of views on YouTube? Love them or hate them, these are superstars. Josh Moon runs a doxing forum. He runs a smut farm, a smut factory. Lisa says, what did he say on Blockland? You haven't seen the posts? Really? You have to follow Yop. I don't know the full ad, but somebody get Lisa the ad. Or everybody. If everybody wants to know who Josh Moon actually is, you're going to want to follow this person. Hopefully one of my mods will post their ad in both of my chats right now. They've documented it like no other. He was up to lots of weird shit. He was up to some Christian shit. He was up to some Christian shit. He was up to some Keppel shit. You know, like I said, when I made the amalgamation of all locales quip, that wasn't a quip. That's not a quip. Like, that's actually who he is. He's an actual free show. And people look up to him as what? Like they just like him because when they want to, you know, fuck with somebody, when they want to ruin someone's life, they go to his forum. And so I wrote in response to this, Josh Moon, who runs a forum which hosts the home address of every right-winger with a webcam so that the people that killed Charlie Kirk can terrorize them too, wants to lecture us on right solidarity? Maybe sit this one out, bozo. Maybe sit this one out. Everything he says comes from this guy here. Like, without exaggeration, this is Josh Moon's thought leader. Everything that Josh Moon says about me or anybody else that he talks about, it all comes from this guy. Like word for word, verbatim. Whatever this fat degenerate, this con artist, this snake oil salesman piece of shit, this worthless excuse of life, whatever he says, that's just like concrete fact to Josh. This is who you look up. You're gonna call him Nick? And this is your guy right here? This is who you think people should be taking direction from? Really? This is who inspires you? Oh, here he is. Here's Yop. Yes, it's Yop445187. And if you want to learn who Josh Moon really is, that's the account. That's the account right there. So, yeah, getting back to the post. Like, I don't know who this guy is, barking directions to anybody on the right. Moving along. Matt Walsh again. Matt Walsh going off again. Writing, I cannot unite with the left because they want me dead. They will spit on my grave when I die and laugh in the faces of my wife and children. There can be no unity with such people. But I will unite with anyone on the right. I hereby discard any grudge or personal feud I may have had with anyone on my side. Maybe we will pick up those arguments sometime in the future. But for now, we have to stand together. Or it doesn't say but for now, he says now we have to stand together. So, absolute king moment, and we're going to give him one of these. Well-deserved. Round of applause for our guy, Matt Walsh. And to this I responded, that face when, is it that face, that feeling? That face, right? It could be both, but that face when you went long on Walsh coin because you knew he was low-key based and it's time to cash in. Literally me reading that post, I was like, let's go. Let's go. I was longing that one, and you know, my more dedicated followers, viewers, I'm sure you guys knew, you guys saw it. You guys saw I was a fan, it's true, I confess, but I no longer have to live in the shadows. I no longer have to live in the shadows. It's true, Matt Walsh, I am a fan. This right here, this GIF perfectly describes, I would say, my emotional response every time I see another libtard getting fired. That's one of the best GIFs of all time, by the way. Let's just all agree. Okay, that makes the top 10 list. It's the wiggle. It's the wiggle. It's like the swirl of the glass in the wiggle. Very hard to top. This was weird. I actually don't want to play this on stream because I just don't feel comfortable, honestly. I will mention it because I did make a post about it. So basically, it's so weird, man. It's very, very strange. So this was the funeral of Charlie Kirk, or I guess it's the wake, right? Whatever. And this is, I don't know if the wife Erica, if she's the one who filmed this, or it is. I don't even want to say what it is because I feel disgusting even saying it, honestly. But it is a video of Charlie Kirk's corpse. I don't want to see that. You don't see his face, but you do see his hands. And even I really feel very just that's Stevie to me. To me, that feels very inappropriate. It feels very disrespectful. Like the sanctity of this. It's hard to talk about because I feel like no matter what I say, it's not. I don't have a good take on this. There's no good take here. It's just as I wrote. I guess she's grieving, but this is bizarre and does not belong on social media. And I left it at that because she's grieving, right? And most of us, you know, hopefully you cannot relate to what she is dealing with right now. So, you know, you gotta give her some leeway, but at the same time, I really think this is never appropriate. So I'll just leave that at that, and we'll move on. This is pretty funny. This is pretty funny. Not Owen Benjamin, but Owen Benjamin doing this is pretty funny. So apparently Owen Benjamin did like a whole stream, like dressed as Nick. But well, let me play the clip first. You guys have probably seen it. I'll play it anyway.
Tucker Carlson's whole community. Tucker Carlson's friends with a guy named Gary. Gary used to work at the CIA. CIA has had operations in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso has invested in Palantir. Robin Hood app. Candace Owens lives in a castle, haunted by Count Dracula and Chocula. Okay, that's why they want me dead. That's why I have to hang out in a ball pit at McDonald's. And if you try and take your children away from me under the ball pit, you're a Jew. And I'll get the Groiper Army to dox you.
Okay, so What's funny about this is supposed to be Owen Benjamin doing a Nick Fuentes parody, but it's actually more like an Owen Benjamin doing an Owen Benjamin parody. Like, it's you know, like I wrote, the ultimate irony here is, unlike Nick, like that's what Owen Benjamin sounds like to anyone who's not insane. Like any Owen Benjamin clip I can recall, he sounded exactly like this. So to me, it's just like, really, like of all the people to, you know, of all the people to do the Nick impression. Gloria says, why does he own a menorah? It's a good question. That's a good question. So I just thought that was pretty funny. Oh, here's, by the way, be reporting all these posts, okay? Posts like this one. In response to, this is a Ben Shapiro clip, I'm not gonna play the clip, it doesn't matter. In response to the clip, a non-white radical leftist, or according to their bio, they're a gay Marxist and physician, so they work in healthcare. They write in response to this clip, someone has the opportunity to do the funniest thing being killing Ben Shapiro, of course. I think that's obviously what's being insinuated there. You know, so as you continue to see these posts on social media, make sure you're reporting each and every single one of them. Incitement to violence, glorification of violence, calls to violence, whatever the category is. Make sure you're reporting each and every single one of these people because you, doing it because. And to this I responded, leftists are unabashedly posting calls to slay more conservatives, but don't you dare suggest the killer was one of them, right? Like, they're like, oh, we had nothing to do with this. No, our hands are clean. By the way, the funniest thing to do right now, you know what the funniest thing would be right now? Can anybody guess? And here we have more, quote-unquote evidence that the shooter was a groiper. You guys want to see the evidence? Here we go. This is an anonymous poster on 4chan saying, groiper confirmed. Yes, this is what your average leftist considers acceptable. Like this meets the standard for credible evidence to your average leftist. This anonymous post on 4chan. This anonymous post on 4chan says, groiper confirmed. That's the source here. That's the source here. So this person says, even 4chan is saying it's a groiper. One anonymous poster on 4chan. Might have even been this guy. Probably, oh look, it's Adam Cochran again. Probably was this guy. And look, thousands of likes. Hundreds of retweets. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. This is what... They know they're lying. Pure desperation. Pure desperation. It's not working. Oh. Here's another one I posted. Jarvis, run the analysis. The shooter was an anti-fascist whose parents thought Charlie Kirk was spewing hateful rhetoric. Groiper confirmed, obviously. I think that's basically everything now. We're going to take a look at the timeline. This is since I started streaming, so if there's anything that's happened in the last few hours since I started streaming, who the fuck is this? Is this the shooter's boyfriend? The T-Slur boyfriend? Great account, by the way. Joffrey Goldstein. That's someone you want to follow. Let's see. Anything good on the timeline? Yep, here it is. Charlie Kirk shooter. Tyler Robinson lived with transgender partner. Gay! He was gay. He was gay. He looks gay. That's, oh, never mind. Joke I don't want to make. I see this clip going around, but I'm pretty sure it's taken out of context. It looks like AF Post is also posting it without context. So I'm actually not going to play that clip, but that is going viral on the left right now. They're claiming that Brian Kilmeade called for the involuntary lethal injections of homeless people. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. I think when he said just kill them, he was talking about, like, murderers. I could be wrong about that. I actually don't know the full context. But when I read the replies, there was somebody who claimed it was without context, so I'm assuming it is because that seems pretty crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure he would have been fired instantly if he said kill homeless people. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, is Candace Owens taking shots? Oh, this happened during my stream. Nobody told me? Let's see what happened here. So Nick posted, my followers and I are currently being framed for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Candace Owens responded, Charlie died, but Nick's the victim. Oh, bro. She says, just shut the fuck up, Nick. Stop grifting off his death, which is a pretty ironic statement coming from her, considering her timeline is, it's like a car wreck in slow motion right now. And the reason why Nick is making himself the victim is because, like, the entire left and mainstream media is accusing the shooter of being a Nick Fuentes-inspired groiper. And if they weren't doing that, then Nick wouldn't be making himself the victim, so you're just like a dumb black person. You're just like not beating the stereotypes. You know what it is? You know what the problem is with Candace? Is she's got some dummies in her ear. She's got some dummies. And I know who those dummies are. It's pretty obvious, but she's got some dummies in her ears, and she's acting a fool because of it. Same thing with Tucker. She's got some dummies as well. Let's see. Same transgender that was friends with Tyler's gay trend. It's like a tongue twister here. It's like a mental tongue twister. The same transgender that was friends with Tyler's gay transgender boyfriend, I'm not even going to pretend I followed that, posted, we fucking did it, moments after Charlie's death. Whoa, okay. Whoa. Conspiracy? Whoa. Damn. Okay. Yeah, I think there was definitely some funky shit going on there. You had what was he? That Was he a Jew, the boomer? He threw himself at the police. He said, shoot me, shoot me. There was definitely some coordination. It wasn't professional like some people said, but I think there is a conspiracy, not a professional conspiracy, but I think it's going to come out in the coming days that there were conspirators and those people will be exposed. Ooh, interesting. Roseanne Barr replying to Nick, what did she say? Your people are being blamed for everything bad that happens with zero evidence. That's really tough. I wonder what that would be like. Oh, that's kind of cringe. Gotta hit the cringe button for that one. Cringe. Gotta hit the cringe button for that one. How to make it about the Jews. Oh, another libtard fired. What's that? Another libtard fired? You do love to see that. Let's see Microsoft making a post. We're aware of the views expressed by a small subset of our employees. Let's we're using the soundboard now. Guys, do we believe this? Do we believe that it was a small subset of Microsoft employees? No, we do not. Smashing X. We take matters like this very seriously, and we are currently reviewing each individual situation. No. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. We need a lot more Office Depots in this world and a lot less Microsofts. Did you guys see that, by the way, Office Depot? There's so many stories and situations. There's almost too much. There was a situation with an Office Depot. There was somebody who was attending a Charlie Kirk vigil, and they wanted to have posters for the vigil printed at their local Office Depot. The disgusting creatures, the subhuman beasts that work there, they refused to print these flyers. They claimed that it was propaganda. And Office Depot, they responded, and they said that at least one of the employees was terminated, to which I responded, I let it be known, and Office Depot's replies that I will never, until the die, I will never step foot in Staples ever again. I will never step foot in Staples ever again, because they fired that person. But in all seriousness, this stuff does matter, and, do whatever you can to put pressure on these companies, whatever you can do. The more outrage there is, the more fury, and it's all justified. Always remember, completely justified. Here we go. Charlie Kirk lived at this apartment with his T-slur boyfriend. What else do we have here? Another point that this is just a random iDubbbz clip. I have no idea what it's about. But what it reminds me of is, normally there's, multiple stories that I'm following at once, or there's new stories coming in all the time. I'm following this story, I'm following that story. I'm pretty, I keep up with the news like you guys do. I feel like since Wednesday, I've been 100% Charlie Kirk, man. It's just, Charlie Kirk is the only thing that I give a shit about right now. I see, news breaking here, news breaking there, Trump tariffs, what else has happened? What else has happened of note in the past year? That's the thing, right now, it doesn't feel like anything of note. It doesn't feel like anything is of note.